The city was all on fire after the battle. The warriors raised their copies up and shouted very loudly to their leader, who was standing on the roof, that they had won thanks to him. Dongfang Bubi turned his head and looked at his soldiers from the holy cult of the sun and moon. He saw admiration in his eyes because to them he was a true hero. The soldiers told stories that Dongfang had incredible strength and was able to cut a mountain in half and fill the ocean with blood, and if it was necessary to bring down the heavens he would do it. Dongfang to the palace to tell people the news that soon the whole world will be united and the wars will be over. But when he returned to the palace, he was suddenly attacked by a rebellious alliance of orthodox sects, and Dongfang was not ready for such a setup. He felt the man he trusted thrust a blade into his stomach, and it brought a smile to his face. Dongfang Bubi understood that he sent all his warriors to capture the territory, and now he had to fight alone against a large number of opponents. He was an experienced fierce warrior who would mahala any enemy, but this time there were too many enemies and Dongfang did not have time to prepare for such a battle. He stopped to inform his enemies that until recently I had not crawled under the feet of his great army, but now they are violating their own Jianghu code and cannot admit defeat. Dongfang slowly began to rise from his knees to his feet, and the enemies were shocked when they saw that he was still able to move. He slowly began to pull the sword out of his chest, feeling incredible pain, and said that he would destroy everyone who stepped their dirty feet on the holy ground of his cult and on the territory of the great Jadeite temple. With one swift movement, he finally pulled the sword out of his body, and his blood began to splash in all directions. The soldiers looked at him with frightened eyes and could not believe that this enemy was so strong, but suddenly they saw that his appearance had changed. They could believe that a person who is almost 80 years old can look so young and full of energy. Dongfang held a sword in his hand called the Support of Heaven and prepared it for battle. But suddenly this sword began to evaporate and melt when it was in his hands. The soldiers could not believe that the world-famous sword could melt so easily in the hands of one person. At that moment, a guy in clothes that were stained with blood approached them and asked the soldiers who were in front of him to disperse in different directions. Huling Hutian stepped forward, placed his right hand on his chest, and said that he would kill this demon with his own hands. The warriors tried to stop their master and explained to him that he was seriously wounded and had just lost his beloved sword. Cool that he absolutely doesn't care about his sword because his technique is not tied to weapons and he must defeat this monster at any cost. Dongfang Bubi lowered his head and looked at this brave guy who decided to fight him alone without his weapon. Cool shouted loudly that he would do everything possible to kill Dongfang Bubi, because he captured and destroyed many small sects and one of these sects belonged to him, and today he wants to destroy the demonic cult that brings only chaos to the world. Dongfai looked at this guy with contempt, and his words were shown to him by the most ordinary phrases that he heard every day from the people of the land he captured. Dongfai said that before the battle begins he wants to find out who carries the heavens on his shoulders, but Hul did not want to waste time on stupid talk. And then Dongfai raised his hands up and called rain from the heavens and asked him another question: what is heaven itself? Hul saw how this man had just been able to call down rain, which caused his warriors to panic. Dongfai turned to the great ancestors and asked them for his incredible strength that could help him destroy this army of opponents. Soldiers heard very loud noises that ruptured their eardrums and caused them to cough up blood. They resist these terrible sounds, and all we could do was suffer and wait for their death. Dongfai told them that death is the only salvation from unbearable torment, and when the warriors heard this phrase they began to destroy themselves and pierce their bodies with swords. Those who committed suicide were able to end their suffering, but everyone else had to experience incredible pain. Some soldiers did not have the fortitude to kill themselves, so they did not ask the allies to kill them, and a bloody massacre began between the allies. Dongfai used the brutal method to kill, but this was the only way he could punish his traitors who decided to go against him. Hul was the only soldier who survived such a terrible spell, but he was the only one who was not affected by the spell, and he had to see all this horror with his own eyes. Dongfai said that he spared him for a reason and now wants to know if he knows why he was given life today, but Hul ordered this demon to close his mouth. Dongfai hated being spoken to in such a dismissive tone and therefore made Hul cough up blood. Dongfai looked down on him and said that she did all this absolutely not for the sake of stupid books, but Hul stopped understanding what the true goals of this demon were. Dongfai replied that he was doing this only because he liked it, and Hul almost went crazy at that moment because he could not believe that this monster was so bloodthirsty. Dongfai said that he just likes Hul's face and that's why he doesn't want to kill him just like the rest of the soldiers. He came closer to him and touched his forehead with his fingers. Dongfai saw a pregnant woman sitting in the garden with sakura leaves falling around her. This girl said that she wants her child to learn the arts, and in the future you were created by the greatness of the Hua mountain sector, which was broken by this terrible demon Dongfai. But now Hul was lying on the ground that was stained with blood and understood that these were just his mother's dreams, and unfortunately they did not come true. Dongfei looked at this guy with pity in his eyes and understood that his life would someday have to end. He picked up the damaged sword which he had melted with his touch and stopped next to the lying body of his opponent. Hul raised his head to look at him and did not understand what was happening and did not understand why this monster had not killed him yet. Dongfei raised his sword up, touched the blade of the ball to his neck, and smiled very slyly. He did what no one expected from him and cut his throat with a sword. He committed suicide and fell to the ground and left a pool of blood near him. The rumor of his death quickly spread throughout the world. The death of the leader of the demonic cult brought stability to Murim and caused great changes throughout the world. After his death, the Ming dynasty followed, and this dynasty rose like the sun to dispel the goodness left after the Yang dynasty. There was a candle on the table, and its wicks emitted fire that illuminated the room. The guy was lying in the room with his eyes open, but his mouth was closed with a special object. His arms and legs were tied to the table, and he was completely naked. He turned his head to the side and saw that a gray-haired old man was sitting in his room looking at a candle. This old man said that there is a long-standing belief that people take over their body skin and hair from their parents, so the main gratitude in this case is caring for oneself, and after that he asked to look at the table on which the bloody instruments lay. The old man said that one day he wanted to cut off the most important part of a man's body. The guy didn't understand what was happening and was very scared. He wanted to resist everything, but he couldn't because his arms and legs were tied to the table. The old man picked up the sickle and said that this guy was so scared, as if he was seeing a eunuch for the first time in his life, but if he is already here then he has no other choice and his fate is also to become a eunuch. The guy saw a sharp sickle before his eyes and he felt uneasy. He was very tense and scared and wanted this to end as soon as possible. But suddenly the boy opened his eyes and woke up in a cold sweat. He immediately sat down on his bed and started screaming very loudly because this dream was very realistic. He touched his body with his hands and tried to understand if everything was okay with him because this dream was very realistic. He looked in his pants and saw that everything was fine with him and his manhood remained with him. He grabbed his head and thought that this was not the first time he had had this terrible dream, and he had heard that some people are given the opportunity to learn secret skills in their dreams, but for some reason he was having this nightmare. He thought that he was cursed. At that moment, he heard someone shout his name, Ling Hu Chan. There was a guy named Hua Via Yazan lying on the bed, and he was the eldest disciple of the new sect of the mountain, and he asked if it was so hard for this idiot to sleep silently and don't disturb the others. Ling Hu scratched his head and asked his elder brother for forgiveness for waking him up, but he had a nightmare, and Hua replied that he didn't care about children's nightmares. If he screams at night again next time, he will sleep outside the door. Ling Hu felt guilty for waking up the senior student and said that he understood and next time this will not happen again. Hua said that no one could have thought that such a spineless son as Ling Hu would be born to a great hero, and when the guy heard "I told you," he felt uneasy. The guy went back to his bed and thought that this guy had just asked him not to make noise and was starting to make noise. Ling Hu looked at the other students who slept in the room with him and said that absolutely no one sleeps in silence here. He didn't understand why this senior student clung to him and constantly reminds him of his late father. He lay down on his pillow again and thought that if he were like everyone else and had an ordinary family, he would treat him differently. Ling Hu thought that he should go to bed already because tomorrow is his birthday and he needs to sleep well that night. It has been 14 years since the death of the great hero Ling Hu Tian, who killed the evil leader of the demonic cult Dongfang Bubi. Ling Hu Chongwu, son of a great hero, trust restoration greatness, Hua Mountain Sector. The older student woke up before everyone else and shouted very loudly that it was time for the students to wake up and go to practice. When they woke up, each student began to collect their things and make their beds. The senior student Hua ordered the junior to stay for a while, and Ling Hu was scared because he didn't understand what was going to happen. The rest of the students thought that he would again cling to the younger student, and because he had a nightmare at night and it seemed to them that this was too much. He walked up to him and put his hand on his shoulder and then said that Ling Hu should not hang his nose. This guy explained to Ling Hu that his older brother was annoying and constantly picking on him just because he wanted to make him better. Ling Hu knew that Yung Juma was the strongest student of all, but nevertheless, he was the kindest person he had ever seen. Ling Hu lowered his head down and was upset because he wished you were as talented as this guy. Ling Hu bowed to the senior disciple and asked him why he asked him to stay. Hua crossed his arms and said that the guy had been having trouble sleeping lately and wanted to know what kind of nightmare he was having. Ling Hu did not understand how to answer him, and he felt very awkward because he absolutely did not expect such a question. He thought that he should tell him that he constantly dreams of how the most important part of a man's body is cut off, but if he tells this, everyone will think that he is crazy. The older brother loudly shouted at him and asked why he didn't answer anything because he had just been asked a question. Li Gu scratched his head, smiled awkwardly, and said that it was hard to explain. Hua continued to look at him with a dissatisfied look, waiting for this guy to finally tell him what the problem was and why this nightmare was preventing him from sleeping. Hua realized that this idiot did not want to tell anything, and in this case the elder brother could not help him. Ling Hu was upset because he was called an idiot and he hated being called that. Hua went outside and was very angry at the behavior of this guy. He only thought that these selfish orthodox idiots were starting to annoy him. He clenched his fist tightly and said that the great Mount Hua sect was once on the verge of collapse. He looked up at the sky and realized that the 9 great sects had done absolutely nothing to help. He was incredibly angry and understood that he hated them more than anyone else. After all, they only know how to talk once, but in fact they do nothing. He wanted this boy Ling Hu to become stronger because for now he is too weak to resist them and this world is too cruel for him. Hua Vai Yazan was not a disciple of the Mount Hua sect, but because of his teacher No Sa Yom, he considered himself part of it. When classes began at school, the senior students loudly announced that the United Guy was cancelled for today. The students did not understand what was happening and why he decided to cancel the sparring. The senior student explained that tomorrow there will be a large number of fights and they will work on the art of 6 harmonies with basic techniques for developing internal chi in the Hua Mountain sector. The guys started talking about how tomorrow would be a very boring day. But the senior disciple suddenly heard Song Ji's words and explained to him that if he does not want to participate, he can clean up the hall or training ground and prepare everything for tomorrow. He realized that he was mistaken when I told you the words and apologized to the senior student and said that he would train hard. The older brother looked at another student named Yung Du Ibi and asked him how things were going, and the guy replied that he was watching his breathing now. He came closer to him and explained to the student that he looked like a monkey trying to imitate a man. He shouted his head and shouted very loudly in such a mood they will not be able to achieve normal results. They all went to the top of the mountain instead of meditating and followed each other up the steps. When they were at the top, they sat down under the lotus and began to meditate, and the older students explained that many of them did not even have basic skills. The guys tried to meditate and repeat everything after their teacher, and the senior student explained that they should join their hands when the chi center comes into balance. Hua explained that they should quietly inhale air through the nose and exhale old energy through the mouth, and remember the order and do not forget the position of the lips. Hua ordered this breathing practice to be repeated 30 times. He looked carefully at his students and said that now they must fulfill the 6 principles of the art of 6 hormones. The students were completely concentrated on this task, trying to inhale and exhale the air as the teacher told them. Hua said that they should start with a small point. Over time it will increase and eventually become very large. And the art of harmony is a technique that illuminates the heart with light, and they must repeat it again and again. He walked between the rows and watched all the students and how each of them coped with the task. He saw that Yung Jiam, as usual, was doing better work than other students due to his age. He was starting to do better than before. This guy had perfect circulation without any obstruction and seems to be steadily accumulating chi energy. But other students could not even come close to such a result, and it was disgusting to look at them because they simply did not have the talent. But if they try, they can become at least second-rate warriors, and the more capable guys have a chance to become excellent masters. He was very sorry that the teacher's dream never came true and will only come true when everything is full of strong people. But suddenly I noticed that it was unusual and immediately drew attention to it. The rest of the students also did not understand what was happening, and everyone opened their eyes because they felt strange energy. One of the students radiated very strong energy from his body during meditation. This was very unexpected because few people were capable of this. He radiated incredibly strong energy from his body and blue fire appeared around him. He had a blue sphere inside his stomach which 100 stopped more and more every second, and its power was incredibly powerful. Ling Hu Chong suddenly discovered incredible potential in himself that other students did not have, and he himself did not even understand what had just happened. An incredible charge was coming from the guy, and it seemed to everyone that he was about to burst, but he was able to concentrate all his strength. He really had a huge amount of energy. The guy seemed invincible due to the fact that he felt all his strength. A powerful gust of wind came from him which blew away absolutely everything in its path, and the guy was able to reunite with nature. The teacher could not believe that this was really true and shouted at him to stop immediately because he could die. The guy felt that he really needed to end this, but he stopped listening to him because he could already stand up for himself. As soon as he calmed down, he did not understand what had happened to him because it seemed to him that he had lived an ordinary second of his life. They couldn't understand how he could do it and what the hell it was all about. The guy himself did not understand what he could do, and they began to explain to him that he was able to develop all his energy. They told him that he had just performed the art of harmony flawlessly. He couldn't believe that he did it perfectly. The teacher told everyone else to stand in a row and feel normal because it was a common practice. They were very angry that their elder did not tell them anything and simply calmed down. The eldest went up to the guy who wanted to find out how someone did it and hit him on the cheek. He didn't understand what was happening to him, but he answered him that he was just a fucking egoist who only thinks about how to get the best for himself. The elder said that the martial art of six harmony is inaccessible to someone with a Ford like them, so they must understand that this is the basis of the basics and should not be underestimated. He began to read his favorite morals to them, so that they would understand the whole essence of life that should comprehend them. They were very angry that the elder did such a nasty thing and slapped one of these participants on the cheek. He got very angry and said that he didn't want to go, and at least get back home as quickly as possible where he is respected and loved. Everyone told him that he wouldn't go far anyway, and his house was not a 5-minute walk from here. Therefore, he had no chance. The stronger students said that they all know that it was not his fault, and if he were in his place, he would also feel unfair to himself. He told him that apparently the elder simply did not like the word ideal, and therefore he himself began to be jealous of the student who could have happened to him. They understand that next time they need to be much more careful and know that their teacher is so hot-tempered. They knew that this affected everyone, so they had to act much more carefully so as not to get hit in the face again in front of everyone. They began to discuss that that guy was really very cool due to the fact that he was able to activate the power from within. They tried to ask him how he could do it, but the guy didn't even understand what they were talking about because he really didn't remember anything. They said that something like this simply couldn't happen because such an important thing couldn't just be forgotten. They thought he didn't want to just tell them. He was uncomfortable because he understood that everyone was discussing him and he had to tell the truth, although they did not believe it. He knew that he was raised by good people and said that he did not lie to his elders at all, and while breathing he really lost his memory. He had no idea what position he was in or why he was even sitting there. But it was definitely him. He had to hear how everyone shouted that he deserved something more, and everyone asked him to give them this autograph. But it was all just a dream, and later they were in the very place where they had previously been taught this art. The gentleman told him that if she had been late even for a second, this boy would have had serious problems. The elder understood that it was unfair. The sage said that today he saved this guy's life. It was the founder of the mountain sect who was very smart. They knew that the center of chi is not just a bowl and the energy itself is not just water. After all, if you pour an incredible amount of water into this bowl, it still won't break. But unfortunately, if you roughly influence the center with it, it will become covered with cracks, and when the internal energy overflows beyond the body, it will begin to lose its temper. And unfortunately then deviations of this energy will begin, which can lead to death and destruction of the body. The sage told him that all this was precisely the art of the 6 Germanies, but he did not understand how he managed to almost fall into a state of deflection of this energy by practicing just one of the techniques. The sage understood that this was the same as forcing a stallion to drive at the speed of a red hare. To do this, you must have a level of internal energy no lower than that of the sect leader. And of course, the center of energy must be deep enough. The elder said that he understands what he did, and unfortunately this guy was born with a terribly small center of energy, so it will be difficult for them to compete. The sage agreed with him, although he did not say it directly. Then he realized that most likely this child was the one he couldn't even name because he was incredibly scared because of this guy. He didn't say anything further, and I'm just thinking about how to correctly tell him what he doesn't know yet. He told the elder that he once swore something very important to this boy's mother, so that he would actually survive. He said that to protect him from demonic attacks and he would survive under any conditions. The old man did not understand what would happen after his death because he knew that there would be no one who could protect this little guy who had no future and for his energy. He understood that if such a dog entered this world, he would be finished off by the 9 great sections. Well, if they leave everything like this, the guy will simply die and be doomed to death. The commander of this group understood that something needed to be done about this. The sage said that you just need to let him go so that there are no problems because this will only not be good. The sage understood that these bastards would not touch the one who left this city. Although this boy still has a lot to hide. The old man said that this guy is waiting for a much better place to know that he is like a younger brother to him. So it will be very difficult for him to say this, so he will say everything himself. But the guy said that he allowed him to do everything himself because he didn't want his brother to say goodbye to him like that. The old man said that he didn't care, and if it was more convenient for him, he was all for it. It was hard for this guy to realize that he would now lose his younger brother. The sage asked him if everything would go according to plans tomorrow. After all, he had great ambitions for what would happen. He said that he will leave now, otherwise you will already move this sage, who told him a very unpleasant thing. It was a branch of a sect that was a restoration sect, and although it was only a branch of the great sect, unfortunately it no longer exists, so this is the only sector that can preserve the former part. But unfortunately this sect was still very small, and it needed to gain experience in order to participate in more dangerous places. Therefore, it is necessary to develop the talents of the guys. A new morning has come, and as usual he began to ask if everyone had slept, because today is the day of the general movement in which everyone is trying to prove that they passed the exam better. The elder said that he hoped that they would all be able to use the skills they had been taught. He wished everyone good luck and wanted to start the exam. They thanked their older brother, who was like a teacher to them, because he tried to teach them all the most important things. Still, he decided to tell this guy everything as it was, and therefore told him to stay because it was a very important conversation. They couldn't understand why they left this guy again and thought that he was just a demon who would scold the innocent boy again. Still, they decided to go into the house to discuss all this in a warm, cozy place. It was very difficult for him, and he looked at him, I don't even know what to say, because he felt that he would be guilty. In his youth, he could only glance at him on the sidelines, and even when I left for distant lands where the great temple was located, he believed in it. He stood calm and looked at everyone with a friendly look. After all, he had a strong spirit and high status. He was able to scatter it even with his inexperienced eyes. Well, as the order of such a high-ranking person, he was obliged to do this. He couldn't understand. So this little guy turned out to be a weakling with a shallow center of energy. The guy didn't understand why he was silent. He knew that this was the beginning of the exams. There was just a little time left, and most likely he wanted to initiate him into some secret plan, but he just sat there and didn't tell him anything. The elder told him to listen carefully because this would be very tragic information that he needed to accept. The guy was sure that he would not harm him anymore and said that he would listen to him even at such an important second. The eldest said that he had no talent at all, so he would have to do art. Therefore, he would have to leave this place after all. The guy didn't understand what was happening. Chan couldn't understand why he waited so long to let out what he already says every day. The elder said that he had to leave the sect because he did not have time to keep him here. It was very hard for him to say this, but he didn't show it. The guy couldn't believe that this happened to him because he prayed to become better in this section. Yesterday he almost succeeded, but now he will have to leave it. He didn't understand why he needed to leave everyone who wanted to become much better. The eldest said that they would find out how much effort he put in. She had such a life. Therefore, it was necessary to move on. It was very difficult for him to continue to say anything, and he kept all his strength in his fist because he was like a brother to him. He told him that he really tried very hard and he wants to stay here. But unfortunately, he had no choice. The guy said that he joined this sect precisely in order to become one of them, and also thanks to his late father. He could not believe that he was being kicked out because he should be in the same sect where his father was. The guy shouted that he always blames him and hates him very much. The elder brother said that he would listen carefully and let him finish. The teenager did not understand why he was talking to him like that and what had already happened. The elder said that he is very smart and he knows that among the brothers he can boast of his unique memory, but still he will have to leave this sect. He said that if he only understood martial arts better, everything would be much better, but every person is unique in their own way. The guy had tears in his eyes. He told him to be very kind and leave the sect because he needed to work on himself, and then it would be possible to hear him. He asked him to leave it as a high-ranking official. The teenager did not understand how to work on himself, but his older brother told him to act because the world is very cruel. The eldest left, and he had to listen to this because he knew that he would have to do it anyway because he simply would not have a choice. The guy was also happy because he always thought that he hated him, but fortunately on the contrary he loved him and looked after him. In fact, he loved him, but he said that it was so that he would really believe it. The older brother understood that he needed to do something to make him stronger. It hurt him to realize this. The younger one said that he would try. When he heard this, he told him that he was thinking very correctly, but he said that he was all talking about that exam. The older man didn't understand what he thought he was doing, but he replied that he liked the anxiety, but he wanted to stay here. The guy confidently said that he would follow in his father's footsteps because he knows that he is worthy of it and will be the same. The elder didn't even know what to answer because he seemed to have eaten his tongue because he didn't expect such words. And the eldest said that he is very stubborn and he doesn't care what he says because he won't have a choice anyway. The teenager was happy and began to leave for the exam, but he didn't even know what to do. I don't understand that he will have to kick him out. In the end, the elder understood that the blood of the great hero who saved the world flowed in him. This little child ran to meet his destiny because he knew that he could follow in his father's footsteps and become even better. Many students had already gathered. After all, everyone knew that the exam would begin now, but it was only necessary to announce it. The elder said that it was necessary to start the annual general driving test, so everyone should gather here and start. He said that they are young and will now manage the sect, so each of them must understand what they are doing. He also shouts for them to fight with all their strength in order to thank their teacher for his kindness, because in this section only the strongest win. He began to ask whether it was clear to everyone what they needed to do now, because they had to understand that this was one of the most important events in recent years. They answered yes. The sage began to look at the people who were the most active among him and wanted to understand which of them could become the strongest warrior. He noticed that this guy still did not leave all of them, although he promised that that teacher would still tell him this. The old man could not understand what was the matter, because most likely he simply could not kill him because he was very pitiful. The elder knew that he had no excuse at all, and therefore he already understood that most likely he would either be in a casino or simply kicked out. The old man realized that what he inherited from his father was not talent at all but stubbornness, for which his father was famous. It was clear from the guy that he was ready to continue his training in order to become a little better and stronger. The old man understood that this girl was very sad when she learned one very important news while she was pregnant. It was the Plum Blossom Empress, who was the wife of the very hero who saved them from the demon. She was the true pride of the sect, capable of defeating thousands of men. The girl was very beautiful, like a divine virgin, and therefore every guy wanted to be with her. Even though it didn't work out for them, he believed that she would still be happy with her older brother, but everything turned out to be completely different. But due to the fact that the demon did very bad things and killed half of the sect, or maybe even all of them, they were unable to give birth to a child in a complete family. The old man shouted that he believed that they had already prepared well, so they had to start the exam. He said that you need to start the exam with sparring. This guy was unusual because he was mixed. He began to name the students who were supposed to come forward to conduct this mixed sparring. The guy understood that he was still the very last because he began to name only the best. The sage accepted only because it was the last request of his sister. Therefore, he needed to understand that he must take care of this child. He understood that he was devoid of talent, but the blood of a great hero flowed in him, who had already been able to protect the world, and people were jealous because they did not understand how such a small sect could raise a child. Everyone wanted to take this child for themselves because they understood that he was worth much more than just an ordinary child. And the old man wanted to give him the best education and wanted to make him a hero who would not discredit the honor of his older brother and younger sister, so he could not allow this to happen. Absolutely all the energy can come out of a guy, and therefore he had to make sure that he felt normal. The old man squeezed his wheel because he felt pain from within, because he understood that he needed to take care of this boy. He had to name the last person who was supposed to fight in this strongest group. He turned around and said that now everything would be different and he would take everything upon himself. The students did not understand what would happen. After all, they had never liked him before, or rather they had never sparred. The same sage, who was one of the smartest and strongest in their sect, flew up to them. He wanted to personally deal with what was happening. The elder did not understand why the gentleman personally came to him for this exam, because it was just a common thing. The sage told him to simply give him a piece of paper with the names of those participating and leave. The elder said that this was not a very good idea because he could ruin everything, and he asked who else he should call. He asked him to give him the opportunity to name the next student. The elder understood that it would be that guy. Still, the old man said this and called the son of the young hero, who was able to deal with the heavenly demon himself. People told him to come out. After all, they could not believe that he was given such a big chance. The guy thought that he would be the last to be called, and it was clear in his eyes that he was very scared because he had not yet fought with such opponents. This old man understood that he could definitely say that he was not exactly an unusual guy. As it turned out, if a person is on the verge of consciousness and non-existence, he can suddenly return the brightness of my death. A martial artist will be able to use the strongest technique in a state of death and then die gracefully. You can take his older brother, for example. He understood that it was necessary to prevent this at all costs, but he had no other choice and the guy had to fight. Chan didn't raise why did he stare at him like that, because he still won't do anything at all, he just came to him for training. The old man said that they could already start training, but he would be very confused because he was usually the last one to fight and no one looked at him. He said that his opponent would be one very good student whom everyone had known for a long time. This was the best student who fought the best and had an incredible concentration of energy. The students could not believe that this was reality because the strongest guy would fight with one of the outcasts. This simply could not happen, and everyone was screaming for it to stop. The eldest understood that this was quite stupid. 9. Putting the weakest with the strongest was stupid. He understood that he probably did this to anger the boy who could prove that he was much better than the rest. This could also force him to independently leave the world in which they were located because he knew that if he himself wanted to, he could not be stopped. He felt that he would feel bad because he did not know how to control his emotions at all, and that guy was many times smarter and more technical than him. They began to hide from each other. He understood that absolutely any of them could kick his ass, but making him the strongest fighter is stupid. He hoped that he would be able to give it to him at least once. He knew that if you train strong, you yourself will become stronger. The experienced ones were afraid and didn't understand what was happening to them because he was very calm before the fight with him. He realized that the guy is not so simple. He hoped that there was no secret plan for him because otherwise the strongest and most promising of them could lose. They were told that the sparring would begin now. They had to accept that there would be a battle now. He began to kill him mentally and said that he was the son of a great hero who would pay for joining their sect in the first place. He said that he should be different from a child from a poor family of farmers, and therefore he will now show him what he is capable of. He told him that he most likely understands that after such conversations with his older brother, he was able to develop some very good strategy for himself. He didn't say this because he understood that he just had connections, and that's why he became one of the best, and because of this they kissed him on the ass. She got even more angry and said that no one would even think that you would want to use your name. He told him to show what he was capable of and ran into battle with him. And the guy was very confused. It was clear in the opponent's eyes that he was ready to tear him into small pieces and even kill him because this was a fundamental battle. He tried to strike him with the first blow so that the guy would immediately understand where he was. He still managed to dodge, but his hair was cut with the help of his leg. Because of this, he had to fall. The elder told him not to even try to escape and took his fist to smash his face because he looked very terrible. He said that this was a double shadow flag and the guy hit him with a lot of blows and he tried to fight them off. Unfortunately, he was unable to repel this. You will receive his incredible consequences after fighting him. It was very painful for him to admit that he was now losing, so he tried with all his might to control himself and protect himself from these blows. The teacher understood that he was completely uneven to the strongest player. Therefore, it was necessary to save him. After all, he uses all his capabilities for defense. The elders understand that he is simply envious for the fact that he is telling some kind of secret, so he said that he is still very far from him. He activated his fist and said that he always despised him because for him he is not an ordinary person but one who does not deserve to be here. The guy is talking about the fact that whenever he looks at him, it is unpleasant for him to understand that such dogs study with him in the same sect. He remembered that son of a rich bastard who killed his parents, and therefore he wanted to take revenge on the rich like him. He continued to beat him and said that he would never be able to stop him. Even if he tried, he would simply disappear. He didn't like the fact that he was overestimated due to the fact that his parents were very rich thanks to his father's name. He specially activated a technique that knocked the guy off his feet, and he was unable to control the situation and simply flew away. He jumped up and said that he was a freak who immediately had a golden spoon in his mouth, and now he would definitely leave here. Well, I say that she seems to be at the very bottom after the fight with him, so he must understand that he does not have a single chance to see victory. The older ones began to notice that the thirst for victory had already been activated as well as murder, so it was necessary to stop this pairing because the guy would simply die. But after he touched it, the guy activated some kind of power that he was able to activate last time. Thanks to this, he was able to knock out an excellent student who flew much further, although he believed that he could do it himself. They didn't understand how this was possible after all. This guy was one of the weakest on the team, and now he has become practically the best. Unfortunately, it was all great, but he couldn't stand his emotions and practically killed the guy. The elder ran to save this little fighter, who in fact was not to blame for the fact that he was a premature child. The elder brother felt that he was uncomfortable being in this environment due to the fact that they practically killed his beloved son, or rather his brother. He understood that they were trained in defense, but they were never able to teach this young fighter to even stand up for himself. He understood that if your opponent is not a demon who was also waiting for murder, it is prohibited. Most likely this excellent student was a demon. He said that he was still able to apply the basics and there was nothing that he did illegally. But suddenly he noticed how the guy began to cough up blood and some kind of demonic power came from there which everyone had seen before. The elders noticed that this was not an easy force and he had already encountered it before, although only legends spoke about it. He shouted for the medicine to be brought to him as quickly as possible because the guy could die now and he had to hurry. And the older brother tried so that he could come to his senses because he felt that all the responsibility lay on him and now he would die. He put a special pill in his mouth so that he could activate his second self and wake up. But the guy was not simple, so he asked him what he was doing now. After all, he already felt normal and everything was fine with him. The elder did not understand what was happening to him because after such blows as the excellent student gave him, people did not survive. The guy began to ask if everyone who tried to defeat that same demon was alive. Most likely something strange happened. This turned out to be some very strange phenomenon because the nickname that the heavenly demon gave himself was invincible in the East. What did Dongfai mean booby? He didn't understand why the great hero was now lying on earth and some strange guy was starting to touch him and ask if everything was okay with him. The guy didn't understand that the tanned woman was in front of him, but you are no longer a guy but a great demon. He got to his feet and said that he didn't remember him at all. It was a demon in a guy's body. He asked where he was and he did it with a very confident look, and with a look he felt invincible. He couldn't understand why he lost his memory and he suddenly noticed that battles were being held here. Most likely he lost his memory when he hit himself. The eldest said that he was fine and got lost behind her, even coughing up blood during the duel. He could not understand how he the great was beaten to a bloody cough because it was impossible because he was the strongest. He would be invincible in the East. Therefore he simply did not understand that this could happen at all because he was ready to defend himself in the name to the last. The elder asked if everything was okay with him because he really hit his head, but he also managed to call him by name and he did not understand what he said. As everyone knew, Ling Huchong was in fact the child of the greatest hero who was the subject of many legends. He looked at his hands and realized that I really was the truth. Therefore, he needs to adapt to this situation and do something. He realized that he had possessed not the hero himself but his son, so now he will have a hard time at all, but he still has many opportunities because this new one was very inexperienced. The elder said that he was very happy when he saw that he had come to his senses, but he still had to do something because he lost. He told him that he lost, so he had to leave the ring. He couldn't believe that he lost because for him it was like an insult to his whole life. He stood up and said that for him it was even very funny because he would be able to show his true strength and who he really is. He stood up and said that he couldn't believe that they were really telling him this because he deserved much more. The guy was incredibly proud of himself. I felt some powerful surge of strength that he could now demonstrate. He started to show that he could do a few moves and started jumping like an incredible fighter. The elder did not accept what was happening because he had just lost consciousness and now he was jumping into everything and speaking in a very confident manner. He realized that this guy became like a different person after this powerful blow. Most likely he really changed his character. The excellent student said that he knew that he had become much stronger. Therefore, it was necessary to end this already because he did not want to continue this rape. The excellent student began to apologize to him for not having time to calculate all his strength and continued to tell him that if the battle continued he would already die. He said that he was fine and began to ask him to guide him further because he was like an older brother to him in this sect. Chan said that now he feels much better and his double kick could not harm him much and now he will show him completely. The excellent student did not understand what was happening because it was as if this guy had gained courage and now felt somehow invincible. He told him to show all the fighting abilities that he was hiding and would like to look at them. This made him even more angry. He began to ask what he was talking about, and even the master himself did not understand what he was talking about. He said that now he knows everything and that he is hiding the essence of the mountain is also true. The guy couldn't believe that he had such knowledge. The elder was very angry that he had knowledge that he knew the essence of the fist of the mountain. The elder became even more angry. After all, he was able to learn this technique without his permission at all, although it was illegal. In fact, that essence is a powerful ability and the sect is most famous for its sword technique. However, before learning how to use a sword in water, you must first master the essence of the mountain. However, everything has its own however. This technique can only be learned by those who have received the teacher's permission, and this guy was not allowed to learn it at all. The excellent student was too nervous and said that he just happened to see his older brother practicing the technique in the middle of the night. He said that it was an accident and the new one understood that he was lying as always. And the guy continued to think about it. After that, the elder began to scold him because he understood that he needed to be scolded for this because otherwise they would have no limit. The master couldn't even believe that this guy was so striving for knowledge and that something had already happened, so you can't change anything and therefore you need to understand already. He said that this time he made a special exception so that everyone would feel equal. The elder brother did not understand what they were talking about. Made his older brother very angry, but the master told him to leave the ring because he can't control his emotions right now. The master said that he was preventing the young men from training, so he must do his order. And now they will practice the techniques. The elder did not understand what this gentleman was thinking and why this guy began to feel completely different and more confident. He told him not to worry and that he could stand up for himself normally because he could quickly deal with this guy. They couldn't believe what happened to him because he really turned into some old man who could brilliantly control his emotions and make people angry. They were told to resume the fight and continue the fight right away because everyone had to understand what was happening to this guy and why he began to feel this way. He was ready to fight against him and was already pulling his opponent with his hand so that he felt morally depressed. The older man couldn't believe where this very opinion came from because he doesn't even understand why he behaves this way, but now he will have to deal with it in full. He said that he would regret what he did because now he would punish him completely. At him with incredible speed, and he controlled everything and stood without even moving. Mere seconds before they collided, he managed to activate invisibility so that he could not notice him. People didn't understand where he had gone, but it was clear that judging by the stance, the opponent was going to use the flying fist technique. He knew that the higher the jump, the stronger the blow. Therefore, the guy decided to hit him back as soon as possible. But suddenly he managed to do something very strange, and the excellent student who was the strongest in this section suddenly suffered defeat. The elder realized that he intended to kill him, but suddenly he noticed that now he would have to defend himself even if he was very confident in himself. He also knew that the higher the jump, the more blind probes he would have to hit. Therefore, the guy simply stood in one of these zones so that they could not notice him, and he disappeared correctly. He couldn't believe that his opponent was able to dodge because no one in this group knew such a technique, and he was the only one who knew how to save himself against him. He turned around and noticed how he didn't even do anything. He realized that now very painful consequences awaited him. He had already managed to activate the shock and between the two legs so that he understood that it was humiliation in front of everyone and that he somehow lost his balls. The guy squatted down and couldn't do anything about it because he was in a lot of pain and had no control over his body. He got very angry and said that he was a very worthless warrior and that only the demon himself could hit this exact place. He began to get up and began to ask him how he was not ashamed to do such a thing because he had been taught that such techniques could not be used. The younger one said that he sees the difference between them, but he still wants to continue the battle, and that was quite stupid. He got angry and told him that he simply did not dare to mock him and began to attack him. He told him that he didn't even know any martial arts. His fist was already flying straight into his face, but the guy wanted to take revenge on him for the fact that he really thought that he could defeat him. But still he calmly raised his hand and caught his blow. No one has ever tried to do such a brave thing. He began to make fun of him and mock him because he didn't care what he said because he knew that he was invincible in the East. This angered him even more, and he felt that now he had a lot of energy to take revenge. But unfortunately it was already very late because the guy managed to do everything very competently and throw him to hell so that you could think correctly about your behavior. The guys from the other subgroups said that it was all over now because he was really able to defeat the most talented promising guy. The sage said that this was simply amazing because no one had ever been able to so easily cope with such complex blows that they had not yet been taught. He understood that the guy was not yet so fast and strong, but he managed to predict his opponent's blow and carry out a counterattack. The guy who already knew all the tricks and studied well became even more angry, and therefore he was ready to do everything to ensure that he was dead. He continued to mock him, and I say that he tried to restrain himself, but unfortunately it didn't work out for him at all. He started making some very strange equipment that no one had ever used before, and the guys found it much worse. But unfortunately this technique was somehow strange, and he said that he was much worse and that he had had enough of this food now. He became completely angry and said that he would kill him so that this would not happen to him because he wanted to prove to everyone that he was the best in the sect. Some very strange smell began to activate in front of them, and no one understood what was happening to it because most likely this guy just went crazy. Even the teachers themselves could believe that this existed right before their eyes because such a technique was very forbidden before, and even now it is not allowed to use it. He made the very technique of the essence of the fist that could not be studied without permission from the masters. The guy didn't care because he knew that he could control such a technique despite the fact that he was already ready to destroy his whole life. The guy who activated the technique asked if he was scared and also said that now it would be too late to apologize. He said that he would kill him with just one blow and he didn't care about that son's dick because he insulted him very much. They wanted to find out if a guy with new ones would be able to evade the technique of the essence of the fist of the mountain, from which there was practically no chance of survival. He told him to get ready, and now he will fight his death and no one will be able to save him in the last seconds of his life. He understood that he really tried to evade and fight back, but now he could really take the blow so as not to show everyone his essence. He understood that if he had been in his body for a long time, he would calmly finish off this insect. He has it, and in this pathetic body, everything should work out. The guy calmly made a stance to reflect this blow, and he moved towards him to kill him because he did not deserve to live. He was ready to stand face to face because he understood that he could repel this blow despite the fact that he had a very weak body. The elder could not believe that he was going to block the blow. After all, he would not succeed at all with such a very weak body. The elder told him to calm down because he understood that he had everything under control and he was not going to kill himself. He said that we need to watch him because most likely something wrong has already happened to him and it has been visible for a very long time. He said that if his guesses were correct, then this boy would not be able to get hurt, and after a few seconds this guy began to jump on him to strike him. Still, he was able to block it and it flew several meters away from the scene of the clash. The students were shocked and the teachers could not believe that this happened because the guy was completely premature. The smarter guy couldn't believe that this was possible because he specifically taught this technique to always prove to everyone that he was much stronger than they thought about him. He realized that he could not achieve full mastery to avoid unnecessary glances, but this did not stop him from highlighting 90% of his technique. The guy was not hurt at all and calmly repelled this blow with his fist, or rather with his elbow, and he could not even suffer from such a small scratch. Chan said that it was only 50, even 30, and he had not yet shown his essence at all. Now he needs to continue the battle with him. He got very angry and asked what he knew, since he decided to fight so easily on his own and thought that he had already achieved everything. He said that the plum tree begins to bloom even before the winter frost, so he will be able to show him his technique. After all, in the same way, you need to see the fist of the essence of the mountain when it has not yet formed. He told the whole truth about this technique and the teachers were shocked. He said that only in this case the effect increases, and you can understand if an entity has fully mastered this technique by the smell of the flower. They really noticed how the guy began to smell very tasty, and he most likely was able to master this technique himself because the smell left him. Everyone understood that it was a drain that should only come in when you mastered the technique of the fist itself. Even this guy couldn't believe that he was able to activate the fist of the mountain technique because no one else had any clues to this technique. He said that he doesn't really remember when he did it because a lot of time has passed and most likely it was still in his era. He said that it was time to end this, and the older brother began to feel killed because he understood that he had failed to master this technique and this guy could now kill him. He said that since he doesn't attack, then he will, and he was already extending his fist to activate the essence of the mountain. The elder brother understood that now he was really awaiting death. He asked for it himself because he wanted to kill him using the same technique. He began to activate his abilities in order to somehow try to save his life, but he wasted no time because such a blow could not be blocked. He understands that this technique is strong, but the attack radius is nothing compared to a regular double strike. He needed to prepare for this earlier, and thanks to the radius he will be able to strengthen the blow. The guy said that he was ready to take it with a blow. Believe me, he was able to activate his interests, which also have their own capabilities. The guy moved towards him to attack with the power of his fist, and he tried to defend himself. Although it was just a waste of time, he was completely invisible because he managed to activate this power and completely merge with this sakura, or rather a plum. Due to the fact that the power of this tree was very powerful, everything around began to bloom, and he did not notice at all where his opponent was. He tried to fight off the plum petals, but everything went down the drain because he didn't understand at all where his opponent was. The guy felt that he was about to lose because he was the loser in the situation, and it was as if he had been fooled. He noticed that this guy had simply disappeared and was not in the ring. Although everyone thought that now he would give him a retaliatory blow and he would lie down. In fact, it was all just a trick, and the guy couldn't understand where his opponent had gone. The real move will take place from behind while he is distracted by this plum, and therefore he was already running to fight back. It was a one-hit technique that we could redo even children, and that's why it failed him. However, in fact, it was a very powerful blow that causes very serious consequences that can hardly be cured. The guy felt pain and thought that he was going to die because no one had ever defeated him so much. They simply stood there without emotion because they understood that this guy was able to achieve more than everyone thought about him. Still, he managed to activate this fist power, and the opponent was already defeated and was also lying on the floor and did not feel himself at all. He couldn't understand how he managed to do this force because they weren't trained in it, and he still did it perfectly. He liked this fight and thanked him for the instruction and also squeezed his two hands as it should be after the confrontation. The teachers were shocked after they noticed that this guy had actually mastered some new technique that they had not been informed about. The sage understood that most likely what he feared most had happened, and now they would have to kill this guy. It was clear from him that now the guy feels more confident and the fire in his eyes continues to burn. Ordinary students began to ask how he did it and also shouted to him that he was a traitor who had betrayed his gang. He said that he was just lucky, and let's say this could have happened if he had been in the right place at the right time. The students were simply shocked by him and therefore believed any of his words because he was able to defeat the most important of them. He said that nothing really happened. And the other students said that there is no need to look down on your older brothers since you have become stronger. They understood that he had become somehow very strange, and now they needed to communicate with him more carefully. The guy felt pain because he was betrayed. He said that he had not felt this at all before. Who would have thought that the essence of someone like mountains could make his back hurt? He said that no matter how it was, he still ended up in the body of the guy who was there, but he couldn't understand why it was so pathetic. He really couldn't believe that he, the greatest demon who was the strongest in the East, should live in such a poor body. He hoped that he would be able to use the great art of separating souls, but unfortunately he cannot. It was a legendary demonic art that allowed one to use or move the soul freely due to gaining control over the body of energy. 14 years ago on this night, he precisely led his father in a state of utmost clarity to destroy his mind and steal him. And yet, among everyone he saw, he had the most promising potential. And his face was his type, so everything was just perfect. He understood that there was absolutely no point in saying what to do just to increase the shock after the truth was revealed. Because this happened, he even presented him with the honor that gave him the title of Great Hero who saved the world. Being a great hero, he was going to completely destroy all the sects so that all the scum would be punished and so that everyone would betray the cult of the sun and moon. In fact, it was clear why he was doing all this, but it was already dark and everyone was going to bed because a new day was coming. The masters decided to drink tea, and one of them asked the other how the guy who was beaten very badly was doing. The younger master said that his energy center was new, but a couple of ribs were broken. He said that he would have to train me. The elder said that most likely it was not easy for him. He asked him to let him go because he wanted to go to bed and forget about this day. Before he was about to leave, the sage decided to ask him about something very important. He wanted to ask him for some reason. I started asking him why he didn't decide to leave the fight as it was. The younger one said that he would have done the same thing and thought that he saw that he had great hopes, so he left the fight like that. As it turned out, that's exactly how it was, because he was even able to exceed all his expectations. He began to ask him about leaving the sect because he wanted to understand whether it was possible to leave him like that. The sage said that this conversation did not happen. The guy was happy and said that most likely it would be better this way, but in fact we need to delete all the memories and tell this child to develop. They believed that he would show his potential, but in the meantime he did not sleep because he was tormented by one very important question. He went out onto the balcony to get some fresh air because his energy was already completely restored, but he wanted to understand the meaning. His thoughts haunted him, and he could not sleep after learning such bad things for his soul. After all, he tried to apply the conditions of the great separation of souls just 6 months before the fall of the cult. While he was thinking, unfortunately, it started to rain. He understood that it was already very difficult, that he even tried to get into a state of energy deviation, but fortunately everything with him became normal. He wanted to close the gate and concentrate on mastering the art, but he suddenly had a chance to take over the world. Well, as one could already understand, it was just a trap that he used very illiterately and hoped that it was a gift of fate. He understood that the one who discovered and provided him with this art was one of the most powerful people in this world, and also the first guardian of the Bright Peak. He did not know that this person could not betray him, but he also wondered how this could happen. Before he finally found that, at the moment when the soul of the great hero Opal, he tried to take his own life and someone suddenly got rid of his bodily shell. As everyone knew, the iron rule of the great art of soul division was very simple because the target had to remain alive. If we explain this in other words, then during the division of the soul, the heart must beat. But he understood that this simply could not happen. After all, at that moment he and the hero were alive, but most likely something went wrong and for some reason he died. Be that as it may, now he won't find out anything. And this was obviously some kind of conspiracy that made him very nervous. He understood that the moments that were repeated were the forced castration and election as the leader of the deity of the cult of the sun and the moon just yesterday when he turned 15. The guy went out to the sun and realized that now he was able to suddenly awaken some very dangerous demon who could finish everything with one movement. He hoped that it was just a coincidence and now he would rule this matter for the good. Morning came, but everyone was still in shock after yesterday's battle. After all, no one expected that such a little guy would be able to show himself. Everyone had already started to wake up and the doors were opening because it was time to prepare for the next exam that they were supposed to have today. They were told that everyone should gather in the training room because they had to get up and prepare for a new life and a different test. He said that today they have individual training. They accepted his order and began to get up, although no one wanted to do this. Only this guy sat and did nothing because he looked at everyone else and they seemed to him a stupid herd. But then this older brother called him, with whom he commanded the name as a group of children. He told the guy to wait for him nearby for coffee. We'll need to talk when he returns from the infirmary. He realized that he still couldn't get away from this and accepted his instructions. Nevertheless, they entered the room in which the sick were prepared because they were suffering after very frequent fights. Someone stepped into this room in his dark shoes because he wanted to discuss very important matters there that concerned these two guys. The elder brothers came to this place to examine what was happening to the patient who was very seriously injured after yesterday. He wanted to ask him what happened to him and why he himself activated this power, although he understood that it was prohibited. The elder brother didn't understand why that guy did this to him because the sect doesn't just teach martial arts only when fully prepared. He understood that he began to spy on his training and he became so impatient due to the fact that he was from poverty. The older brother stroked him and said that he understood the guy who suffered because he was also from a poor family, but this was not an option to learn bad things. He said that once before he too almost made ends meet because he was very poor, but the hero and the sect showed him that he had a future and thanks to this he became like this. The elder brother wanted to convey this feeling of nobility to him and the other young disciples and wanted the sect to become for them what it did for him. He continued to sit with him and said that he most likely failed to instill in him the hope that could give birth to a new hero. Despite all the difficulties, he said that he believed that he could still become the pillar of this sect and would continue to become one of the best disciples. They also hoped to entrust this sect to him after he and his teacher die. He hoped that he could give a good future generation. He asked him to hold out just a little longer because he trusts him as much as he trusts himself, but he also violated the rules of the sect. He knew that when he came to his senses, he would have to punish him, and he understood why all this happened. Therefore, he had to move on with his life. He slammed the door and told him to get well because he was going through one of the worst periods of his life. The guy couldn't hold back his tears and cried because he felt like he was telling him very difficult words and poured out his whole soul into him. In fact, he said that this is bullshit and he doesn't want to believe it at all because he understood that he was created for this. He didn't know that they were furious when he used the essence of the fist of the mountain, so he doesn't even hope that he believed it. When he used it, everyone said that he was a scoundrel, but when someone else used exactly the same tactics, they were afraid they didn't say a word to him. He spent a lot of days training to learn this. And this stupid guy would never repeat a technique that I saw once in my life. He got out of bed because he felt injustice and wanted to prove to everyone that this is really not so and that they believe a very bad person. He understood that his elder brother must have secretly trained him so that he could show in front of everyone that he was not yet worthy of it. He doesn't want to trust him after this and will no longer buy into his fights and speeches. He will fight to the last to prove to everyone that he is not like that. A new day has already arrived, and it was necessary to understand that a new life awaits now because the sun has already risen much faster than they did. The older brother asked the guy where he learned the essence. He wanted to understand why he was able to activate it so perfectly and in front of everyone. He said that he shouldn't even try to lie about what he repeated after another guy because this technique simply cannot be copied. He said that they thought too highly of this stinking fist because she was not even close to his martial art. In fact, these were his thoughts and he could not tell the whole truth. Therefore, he had to come up with something. Therefore, he spied on the guy's training. After he said this, the elder brother saw that he began to take a lot from him and therefore he did not like it. After that, he decided to look at why his hand was bandaged because he wanted to understand what happened to it and most likely he can already guess about bad things. He unwound it and said that he tied this hand very loosely, so now he will do everything much better to make him feel at home. The older brother said that it was necessary to secure it well, otherwise the wound would completely rip apart. He said that before he could heal wounds by circulating his energy, and how could he now know how to apply a bandage if he had never bothered with such wounds? Unfortunately, the memories of the guy who suffered from them every day began to rise. He knew that most likely this gorilla could be kind, but now he knew that this was his body and he controlled it himself and no one should feel it. And by the way, he needed to take advantage of it before he became stronger. The guy felt pain because his older brother hit him on the head with his fist because he behaved very badly. He got very angry with his older brother and wanted to hit him and also kill him because for him it was just some kind of creature that was unworthy of fighting. But unfortunately, these were all his thoughts. He hoped that he could activate a special green ring with which he could kill this guy. Unfortunately, now he was too weak, so that's why he's holding back, but then he'll be able to show him what he's capable of. The older brother told him that he looks very unkempt. Therefore, he needs to take care of himself if he wants to become stronger. After all, his chest is open. He began to control him, and it looked very cute because he looked like an older brother who was looking after him. He was already accustomed to being dressed by servants, and therefore he didn't care about dressing properly. And when he became a leader, he stopped dressing at all. The older brother began to ask him why he was behaving so strangely, and probably because it was all because of yesterday's fight. The guy was happy because he realized that most likely this thug had already forgotten that he used the fist technique and therefore began to play along with him. He said that he still had a headache and was nauseous. And his arm also hurt, so something had to be done. The thug watched as he began to describe his symptoms, saying that he had a yellow mixture in his mouth. He said that he would only talk to him when he gets better and now he should go and rest or rather go and train. Fortunately, this conversation passed very quickly, and he received nothing at all, although he should have been punished. And he needed to find out how he ended up in this particular business because he couldn't understand why this happened to him, but so far he's too weak. The rest of the guys called him to come with them in training to develop their skills. He understood that he first needed to master martial arts again, and the only way would be to go through hard training again. The guy understood that he had no other choice and he would have to work and kill himself again to become better. The thug came to the master and began to ask how they should punish these two guys who behaved very badly. The gentleman said that this time they would close their eyes, but he did not understand his logic. After all, they broke the rules. And this was the most important condition for living in sex. The old man understood that it was necessary for them to punish everyone who had fallen more than once, so it would be difficult to restore it. Everyone laughed at them because they were chasing some orders of the game and no one wanted to join them because they considered her crazy. But now it was necessary to see how the other guys continued to train and get better because they should succeed. He understood that moreover they had two students who united and learned new techniques with the help of which they would become stronger in battle. He, the old man, understood that these two were the hope of the sect of the mountain and thorns of return, and the glory would only be through these guys. He knew that for the sake of his own future, he would not need to treat them very harshly and give them another chance. The rules need to be changed to prevent this from happening in the future. His subordinate understood this and said that he would do the best he could. The old man thanked him because he knew that in this way they could strengthen their sect, otherwise they would have very bad consequences. The old man said that they had little time left because they needed to watch and wait because for the sake of the sect they had shed a lot of sweat. They understood that these students would be able to bring them to a future where everyone would respect their great sect. Everything was as always and everyone lived an ordinary life. After all, everyone needed to train and continue to further accelerate their abilities. The bird at the moment began to feel very anxious, as if it began to sway very much. She completely flew out of this tree because she felt that something very strange was happening here and she needed to move from here. More than one bird did this because something incredible was happening there, because a huge number of birds were afraid of what was happening and flew away, to train fully so that he could become much stronger later. He wanted to split the stone as he had done before. He felt a surge of energy, and the fact that he knew absolutely all martial arts, unfortunately, he was not experienced enough to use them correctly. He tried to split this stone again, but nothing worked because his body was still very weak. After he hit, he felt his hand begin to bleed, and he understood that now it was time for him to train his body to continue fighting. It fell to the ground and felt pain because he knew that his body was not yet worthy of even breaking some unfortunate stone. He knew that the body did not have enough strength, but I didn't think that she would be so pitiful. It was a disgrace to his rank. But fortunately, he still masters absolutely all the martial arts that he learned in his past life. To put it much easier, his life is now in danger due to the fact that he is not in control of the situation. He knows that in this city with such a pathetic body you will not be able to survive at all due to the fact that everyone will chase you and try to kill you. But fortunately now he masters all martial arts, and thanks to this, he will be able to show everyone that he is strong. He just needs to train his energy. Everyone understood that this was a rather difficult task, but he would have to do it because without any arts he needed to choose the one most suitable for this body. He didn't know that there was no point in focusing solely on the martial arts of this mountain sect. After all, there are many more and more dangerous techniques. Having used the art of the mountain fist, he came to the conclusion that this guy's body was not even ready for the cultivation technique. And yet it's great to wake up fresh in the morning because you have a very young body that is still inexperienced, because it can quickly increase the level if you master unorthodox techniques. He will be able to free them, but he will need to find someone who can tell him this. What did he understand? That now he could only wait and endure in order to train his body today. He knew that all he had to do was master a social martial art containing the harmony of yin and yang. But it was not very easy. To begin with, he wanted something from martial arts techniques to the art of creation on Mount Wudong, which existed a long time ago. He tried to activate this technique, and over time he succeeded, but he did not activate it completely because his body was still very weak. Even for such a simple technique, it was not suitable. He knew that he needed to collect energies in a ratio of 7:3 and combine them so that later he could fully feel the entire balance. He wanted to then compress the energy inside so that everything would be activated and start working like a clock, but for this he had to collect it in the center and compress it. He was able to do it a little bit, but he felt that the energy had become unbearably strange and he needed to control it, but he still couldn't do it. Some kind of hellish flame began to emanate from his body, which could not be controlled simply with his hands, and he seemed to have upset himself. He realized that this was an early sign of energy deviation, but it was clear in his eyes that he wanted this, and now he had achieved success. He realized that the energy was in the center until everything was filled with another energy that he mixed. They were supposed to be in harmony, and he can't do it because he only uses the Wudong Mountain technique. Although he couldn't leave it yet. Well, he realized that it was time for him to do a triple distortion and also an absorption technique so that he could fully experience everything on his own skin. He realized that now these two energies must find harmony. With the help of this, he will control it for a very long time thanks to his experience. He felt how these two energies were mixed and some strange things were happening inside his body that he did not control. Still, he was able to achieve that same harmony, and he realized that he was really ready to do a lot in order to regain his incredible name as the Invincible from the East. He realized that he had finally managed to do it and all his energy was in harmony, but it had not yet completely subsided. He realized that he needed to do this again because once was not enough. He realized that he could only regulate the first energy until it stabilized. He realized that he could still distribute energy along the meridians so that everything would be effective. Still, he managed to do it, but you had to understand that you are not completely ready yet, because you barely mastered the first technique on your body. He was glad that he was able to master the first task, and now he no longer feels like some useless sack, at least a human being. He liked the fact that he was able to master it, but he was angry that he spent as many as 5 circles of circulation to bring the energy to rest. Still, she pushed off the ground to fully demonstrate what he was capable of because he wanted to understand whether he was able to achieve this harmony 100%. He quickly absorbed the energy that the second used to balance the overwhelming energy of the first. But he could not understand why everything was happening like this because in a past life he had achieved unlimited power and would learn to control 2 energies at once, but this had never happened before. He thought that this was a temporary phenomenon that caused physical weakness due to the fact that he was not yet prepared for such techniques. He realized that now he needed to promise himself that he would be able to unchain the very mountain that he could not do before. He realized that he had no need to use chi energy, and so he began to bandage his hand so that everything would seem perfect. He understood that thanks to the girl of these 2 energies located in the center, he received incredible power with the help of which he could now test what he was capable of. He knew that the level of these energies was increasing on its own thanks to the technique that he had learned quite a long time ago when he was in another world. The heavenly demon understood that one part was responsible for softening and the second for the power of which he used for selfish purposes. He got angry and ran forward to strike and test what he was now capable of because he thought that thanks to one training he would succeed. By some strange luck, he actually succeeded and was able to break the stone just as he had done in his previous life, and everything worked out great for him. He knew that this blow had to be delivered with full force, but that was not all. Therefore, he needed to train to fully prove to everyone that he was capable of more. His strength turned out to be incredibly great, and all the disciples who were in that mountain sect clearly did not reach him yet. The guy turned out to be stronger, and such a powerful effect of the stones began to tear through the entire forest where the guy was training. He realized that it probably all started with the essence of the fist of the mountain and then transformed into a new martial art that he formalized. Martial arts that differ from such power can be recreated even by the leaders of all different people, so it turned out to be as easy as shelling pears for him. He was able to pave a huge path for himself with the help of this force and carry the earth thanks to his energy, which he directed in the right direction. He said that nothing is impossible, and his center of energy expanded significantly, and it increased by as much as 5 times, and this means that the energy of the first type carried out the other. He realized that in this case this explains the deviation of energy after mastering the technique and art of 6 harmonies. He realized that this body must keep some secret that even the old man doesn't realize. Therefore, he will have to find out everything about this boy. The guy calmly dealt with absolutely everyone who entered the ring with him because he didn't care who he fought against, because he was ready to demolish anyone. They understood that it was impossible to continue such painful techniques, so they said that the fight was over and Chan as usual became the winner. They began to line up and he wanted to tell them very important information that they had to absorb as it were nonsense in order to understand. The guy liked the fact that they underestimated him too much, and now he realized that he could show them much more than before. The old man couldn't believe how he single-handedly defeated all his brothers, and there wasn't a drop of sweat on his face, but he was also leaving for the mountain. It's good just 100 days in this city, but for this place it's practically nothing because people have lived here for thousands of years. However, during this time the abilities and amount of internal energy of this guy have changed significantly, and this is the only thing that worries him. He realized that most likely there could be unclean energy, and therefore it was a side effect of rapid growth. Most likely some kind of alien energy emanated from him. However, the old man could not understand how strange it was because the number of scum and non-orthodox sections of all was very strange. The old man said that this is very strange because such a child cannot have such great energy, and he is not at all like his energetic dad, but his father was completely different. But the old man understood that their children were much weaker than this guy, so he had to be restrained with all his might so that they could learn something new from him. He said that this section needs talented children, and therefore he will not kick him out even if he does something strange with his body, because he needed to control everyone. The old man also knew that in order to teach the future to be completely, the mountain must become stronger, and thanks to this guy it will become and return everything as it was. The weather was good, and the old man was thinking about how he could make everyone in this sect stronger. And this guy told who he really is. Unfortunately, they began to use the martial arts of other sects and rescue the mountain sect, where there were many hidden risks, so the foundation could be shaken. Once upon a time he had to lie very often, and in order to avoid being investigated by the big ones, they all had to move to a kingdom where there was not a single worthy sect. Having located the sect near the capital, they were forced to endure the ridicule of people calling them the government and also dogs of the government. But it was all in order to regain the glory that they had for a very long time. The subordinate said that he was very sorry, but the same. He said that he was very sorry and hoped that this guy would move in the same spirit. Therefore, he should not bother with different passions while he is studying. The guy said that he would not let them down and was ready to achieve everything in this world due to the fact that he was already very strong. He said that it was over and everyone needed to leave to have a good rest because today they would have one very important meeting. The sage said that today is a day off and it happens only once a month. He invited him to join them so that he could spend time with his students. He said that he would go with them and give them a bad example. If he really rests because he loves, that's why the guy stays here. He didn't understand why the young man didn't want to go on vacation with everyone, because this would be the only day off they were given in this place. He said that most likely this guy started devoting a lot more time to training to become much stronger and more experienced. The old man said that he would have to be praised because the guy was always trying to become better and surpass himself, although it was unrealistic. The younger one suggested that they bring him food. The old man said that he would need to go somewhere, so he would have to stay in charge and watch what this young man was doing. He began to ask his head when he would return because he wanted to find out what he could do during this period while he was not with him. The old man said that he would be back somewhere closer to tomorrow morning, and he would need to take care of sex while the old man was gone. The old man went about his business. He realized that he now needed to start cooking to please this guy. A little later, everything was as usual in the student quarters. He thought that the guy was probably practicing the technique alone. She needed to give him some meat to give him energy. The teacher came to see him to see what this guy was doing because he wanted to find out how he was and what he was doing. He noticed that there was no one in the chambers, which means that the guy himself ran away somewhere without his permission. And he realized that most likely this guy is training somewhere else. so he needs to find out where he ran away to. He began to look for him absolutely throughout the academy to understand where this little freak was who really thought that he could escape. He didn't understand where this young man had gone because he thought that he was training somewhere at the base, but he was not at all close here. He couldn't understand where this guy had run away because he thought that he would always be at the base and train even when it was a day off. But suddenly he was able to notice how someone began to sweep. Most likely it was some kind of Suga who looked after this section. The janitor was called to tell us something about what he saw with his own eyes. It was an ordinary grandfather who was cleaning. He wanted to know if this grandfather had seen some little guy who had gone from here to an unknown destination. The grandfather immediately said that if he was talking about the son of a great hero, then he said that he was going to brothels with other students to have some fun. He couldn't believe that he really went to the brothel and thought that the old man had heard it because he was already very old. The old man said that he had definitely heard and was confident in his words, and even though he was not star, his hearing was no worse than that of a white hound. The commander came and told the old man to feed the cows because that was what he was here for. The older brother could not believe that he went to a brothel. He was climbing up. I understood that he had the right since he was already 15 years old and his hormones were in full swing. They understood that he tended to behave like his own boat. Therefore, there is nothing shameful in this. Even the most famous bow needs to be unstrung. He understood that even an excellent student turned down the wrong path and for a moment of misunderstanding, so no one knows that the same thing could happen to a guy. Although it was also necessary to understand that he had recently declared himself, so you just needed to understand everything and interpret it correctly. The older brother understood that they were saying that people change. I need to understand that he is still a child and he has some kind of bad feeling. He hoped that everything would be okay with him even if he went to the brothel even though he didn't want to. They didn't continue to move forward to get to those same entertainments. After all, they already wanted to feel adult life. He could not understand what he was not saying. After all, they really behaved like some kind of backward people. Chan understood that there was already not enough time for training, and the students of the sect who had inherited the title of one of the outstanding schools thought only about entertainment. Now it is clear why the chambers of the 9 great sects are located in the very depths. The elder told him to hurry up because he was the last of them and did not move after them at all. The elder asked him why he looks like that and said that he is already praised too much and he already thinks a lot about himself. The elder asked why he only had one piece of clothing for every occasion because he was instructed to dress normally. The guy answered them that he had absolutely nothing else, it was really his clothes for life. The elder said that it was necessary not to keep it to himself but to tell him. After all, he already has many shining robes. He replied that it was better to wear the same clothes all the time than to wear this. The elders did not believe that he disrespected him so much for his clothes. His friend stroked this fashionista and said that a person is only adorned only by his face and this guy looks much better than him without a cape. They started to get very angry at each other and said that they were two freaks and Chan was already tired of these stupid squabbles. They continued to fight and the other realized that this guy was really unusual and even looked very good. It was really somehow strange because he was dressed in ordinary clothes. His hair was carelessly exposed. But it seems that she herself does not understand how elegantly she presents herself. The wiser of them realized that he was so similar to his father, who was known as the most handsome man in the world, and therefore he also presents himself. The fashionista said that today you need to drink for a 15-year-old, so you will need to have a lot of fun. The guy replied that he could do without it because he doesn't care about me at all. He also said that he had not been in the village for a long time, so he didn't really want to. It turns out he didn't know that 6 months ago he also went to the village because it was a new thing for him. He was reminded of how when he came there one lady turned him off and said that he was not worthy. He didn't even understand who it was, and suddenly he began to remember something very tragic and realized that he really knew her. He remembered her and felt some very strong jitters that had never passed through him before. He realized that she was a courtesan of the Pearl Pavilion and she really looked very good, and he also wrote her a love letter a long time ago. It was tragic for him to never actually have to do this. But suddenly he realized that it was the stupid boy who did it and not him because this issue has a direct bearing on his reputation as the supreme ruler. He said that they were probably doing something because they only picked up what she dropped. And most likely they are heading in the wrong direction. The guy said that there are already a lot of cool places around, so they shouldn't go there. The guy said that this was not the point at all, but they told him to stop crying because now they were going to a very interesting place. They walked to this village, which turned out to be incredibly beautiful, and they still had to go down the mountain because they were already very high. He couldn't believe that the quiet fishing village surrounded by the river had grown so much, and it began to prosper so much because of its proximity to the sun. At night this street looks completely different from the day, but there were also many opportunities here. They were even offered to go somewhere, but they always refused. The girls asked them if they wanted to look into their store, but they replied that they were already busy today and would be able to do it another time. He understood that these brothers who are only pretending to be correct are trying to show everyone that they are not at all like everyone thinks about everyone else. Still, they could not come to the very place for which they were moving there in the first place. After all, they wanted to deal with that same courtesan. They said that with me here they would organize this movement at night and they would have to have fun. After all, they only have one day off a year. This was the same pavilion in which there was a lot of things. But most of all, it fell down with its maidens. They stood right in front of this pavilion and didn't know what to do next. After all, they understood that the most beautiful girls would be there as well as the one they were talking about. He told him that this elite brothel looked kind of shabby, but the elder told him that he had not seen anything at all yet and he should step aside. He explained to him that all first-class beards or outside look very inconspicuously like the residence of prestigious clans. But inside it's like God's temples for which people are ready to give almost their entire fortune to be there. Some men came to him and said that they were very glad to see them in the pavilion. They would probably like to fuck some new girl. There was some huge man in front of them and said that his goal was to escort them to new girls. He also asked them if they wanted to see some special courtesan they had already visited. The elders told him to bring the same girl they were talking about just recently because he wanted to see her. He began to apologize to him because this girl is already serving another guest now. They will not be able to spend time with her. He offered him something new. He said that this is a girl for 2 years, we already have this, or go and plays much better. The offer was tempting and so they had no choice. The guy said that they came here precisely for the lady he was talking about. The rest of the brothers no longer wanted to come here. The man said that unfortunately he couldn't do anything to them because this girl was already busy with another client and they should understand their rules. This greatly angered the guy who hoped that he could communicate with her today and said that if he knows who his father is, you must immediately carry out his order. The guy shouted that he was having lunch with the owner of this pavilion and therefore they should immediately provide him with what he had wanted for a long time. He continued to tell him how cool his father was, so that he would understand that they immediately needed to see this guest off. The old man accepted his order and said that now she would come to him. Also, this big guy said that as an apology he wanted to offer them a bottle of liquor, so he wanted everything to be fine. This impudent guy said that he hopes that this will not happen again in the future and his face should be very important. And the guy also asked when that same lady would come. But after a few seconds she came into his room and said that she was a little late. She asked him for forgiveness because she could not come on time properly. The girl was very beautiful. Everyone noticed that she was as usual very beautiful and no one could resist her beauty as well as her ability to play instruments. He finally understood who the girl was that they had told him so much about and told him about her beauty. He agreed that she was truly a pearl of beauty as she was very elegantly charming and neat. He realized that I was such a lady the kid would definitely fall for me, but it's clear from her that she's definitely not his cup of tea, but she can't win this guy's heart. The girl said that she was very pleased that they chose her and also asked what song they wanted to listen to today. The sloping guy asked her to play him the perfect song that they always chose when they came to her. She was obliged to follow all his instructions because he paid them money for this, especially not very little. The girl started playing this instrument and sang her favorite song because she liked working in this profession. She managed to do it just perfectly and everyone was in emotions of joy because she played incredibly beautifully. The girl continued to play this melody to conquer their hearts, although they were already conquered. He also followed these hand movements and wanted to notice what was her peculiarity and why she played such keys so quickly. She was able to do this almost perfectly and each string was responsible for a specific note since she played only first-class instruments. They continued to clap and said that it was simply amazing and she was beautiful as always. They really enjoyed spending time with this girl. She thanked them for appreciating her talent and humble skills. She knew that this track was just a musical masterpiece that was based on an ancient poem. The words were so harsh that they were long forgotten and have been the melody of entertainment events for a long time. There were very cool words that were about love and how she loved her husband who, the girls didn't like what she understood about how much this song meant. And they perceived it just as an ordinary game. Also, this guy started asking her how about 9 songs on the way to heaven. He also wanted to listen to some talents that she had not fully revealed to them. She had a work schedule, so she had to do what they asked her to do. Also, this song was less popular than the previous one. But still the guy simply couldn't stand it because he didn't like all these songs because they were the same type. He showed them his character and said that he wanted to listen to one very important song that he had not heard for a long time. The elder said that he was just a rude person who had no right to communicate like that with this lady who performed all his songs perfectly. She began to ask if everything was okay with this young master, and she also reminded him that he had sent her a love letter. She did it very competently. The guy felt that now he had no time for music at all because he was simply humiliated in front of everyone. He said that it was not a love letter, and it seemed to her. Everyone continued to laugh because it was a love letter because it begins with the words "my dear." He said it wasn't him. The girl asked what song he wanted to listen to. She thought that he would now wish for some ordinary song about love. He asked her to play "The Night on the Mountain." After she heard such words, she realized that this guy was not at all simple. She told him that this song was not fun at all and it could spoil their mood. Therefore, she would have to choose something else. He said that this is a very difficult song and he will understand if she is simply not confident in herself. Such words really touched her, and therefore she wanted to prove to him that she could show him much more than he thought. She said that for her it was as easy as shelling pears and asked if she could play for him. The girl was ready to perform this masterpiece. She began to put her fingers on the strings to start singing this sad song from the first chord. As soon as she started playing, someone broke down the doors and was very angry at everything that was happening nearby. Some crazy person asked who dared to steal from him the very girl that everyone dreams of. He couldn't believe that these scumbags were able to steal his girlfriend as well as his good mood that he felt in the middle of that night. Due to the fact that the eldest was very rich, he asked him who he was to break out here without knocking. One demon looked at him and felt that he was not simple. He understood that they were some kind of sons of rich people, so he could not stand it and took a vase to hit them. He grabbed her and told her that they would understand who he really was. He said that he could destroy everything for me as soon as they wanted it. After such words, he realized that he needed to behave more carefully because he could endanger his health. He said that there was probably a mistake and joining them would be a great idea that would satisfy everyone. He said that he would pay. Therefore, you just needed to join them and calm down because no one needed anything other than bloodshed. The guy said that he was sorry that everything turned out this way, but the vase was already near his face and he had no chance to fight it off. He dealt a very strong blow to him, and he felt that it was not worthy to fight against such masters who were ready to kill him. He didn't understand what he was doing because he wanted to kill him even though he was the son of one of the very rich people. He didn't care, and he calmly dealt him the first blow and wanted to give him a second one so that he would feel the pain. Still, he managed to finish off this impudent guy who believed that he could deal with money so calmly. After this blow, he flew into the wall and felt pain due to the fact that he was able to properly manage his energy. He started coughing up blood. But they didn't understand what it all meant. Moreover, they also apologized, but for some reason he still didn't calm down. He said that if I don't think that if they insult the imperial advisor then nothing will happen to them, then they are very deeply mistaken. After such words, they felt that now very bad problems awaited them because they did not disturb the imperial advisor himself. Everyone knew that he received the favor of the emperor, and this man could single-handedly control the country's politics. Therefore, he had the ability to do whatever he wanted. And his friend began to ask for forgiveness and asked how he could contact him because he did not want to feel such pain anymore. He said that he was his third son and they would really pay for this because he didn't like being disrespected. He continued to be proud that he was that third son and who was loved very much and also kissed on the ass all the time. This was the same famous womanizer about whom everyone knew, but no one saw him in person because he was afraid. Despite the fact that they damaged his reputation and also came under his attack, there were facts about the attack and therefore they are unlikely to be defended. He said that they live and they froze at the mere sight of his name, so they must understand who he is and calm down. He approached the girl and told these bugs to calm down because she should have gone only to him because he himself could decide what to do with her. He told the girl that today she would only be his. She really felt that something not very good was waiting for her. He grabbed her hand and told her to move with him because he wanted to spend as much time with her as possible. Chan asked this impudent guy what he allowed himself to do because he took the girl without her consent. She had to tell him herself what she wanted or not. The elder said that this guy should calm down all now and not just lie dead between them, and therefore he could calmly take this girl because he's a guy. He liked the fact that some children ended up in this brothel of his own who were unworthy of being here. The girl asked him to let her go. Chan couldn't stand it and told him to calm down because he's just a stupid freak who beats women and also avoids paying for drinks. Such words touched his soul because he knew that he could not tolerate such rudeness towards himself. The guy continued to tell him how weak and worthless he is for the fact that he takes first and only then pays as if he had no money at all. If he doesn't want to have a drink with them, then he should just take his worthless cowardly self and get out of here. The elder asked him what he should do if he was not satisfied with one of these options because he did not want to just leave here. He said that they are stupid bastards who will still pay for this because they believe that they have already been able to achieve everything. He got even more angry and said that now they would die because he was very upset about what they told him. They knew that this was the same heavenly thunderstrike that was the main technique of the great clan of one of the 5 great clans. They told him that the guy should be much more careful. After all, this blow could have killed him with just one guy. But the guy didn't listen to anyone and began to withstand this blow. By some miracle, he managed to come back from this blow and was already behind this impudent man. He got even angrier and said that he was a scumbag who would now lie dead and beg for mercy. Tolstoy said that the strike of heavenly thunder is a basic technique that must be mastered in order to master the function of the triple strike of heavenly thunder. Chan knew what he was doing now and told them to stop joking. After all, they were only intimidating him, and he himself knew what to do and how to do it. The guy must be quite experienced and knew how to deal with battles. He understood that if they fought one-on-one, it would be clear that he would calmly kill him, but he had to hold on so that the guys would not understand anything. He managed to block this blow, and he did it very effectively so that everyone could see that he could do it better than anyone else. The guy asked if this would be enough because he simply took his hand and grabbed him and also drained his energy. He said that he couldn't even master the strike of heavenly thunder yet, and he was just stupid. After that, he told him not to be arrogant because he was only able to block one move. Well, he couldn't dodge the second one. But the guy calmly moved. He told him to try as much as he wanted because nothing would work out for him because the realization would be like it had been at the bottom for a long time. The guy hit him and asked who was the main thing for them now because he wanted to find out the whole truth about which they were talking. This made this guy very angry. He told him to go for his mouth because now he would simply kill him. But suddenly he didn't understand what he asked because the guy doesn't even know who the head of one of the 5 greatest clans. Not only does he not know, but he also behaves simply like a historian. Although he looked very young and felt as if he was 15. Most likely he realized that this was the same rejuvenation technique that there were a lot of legends about because it was available only to masters. He told him that the current eyes are a gentleman who was the son of the previous chairman, and he was also his cousin on his mother's side. Such words made him very happy and amused because he realized that this was the same guy who was the son of the chairman with whom he communicated very well. He realized that this guy called the great patriarch of the clan by name, and it seems that he really knows the rejuvenation technique, and this guy is not at all simple. He shouted to him for the elder to accept his problems and calm down. He realized that it was better for him not to show the truth and just tell him to accept his apology. He got angry and asked how he could be the eldest. He told him that anyone would understand that he was much younger than him. He said that he really resembles an elder Taoist and he has the same smooth movements because he is an elder who simply uses the rejuvenation technique. They didn't understand his boyfriend, what kind of nonsense he was talking about, and why he suddenly started bowing to him because just recently he wanted to kill him completely. Most likely, he didn't understand everything as he could let their younger brother down as the strongest big sect. He got very angry and said how he could compare him to such a weakling. He couldn't understand why this idiot was making such a fuss. He tried to behave very respectfully. He decided to insult him because he was the son of the great counselor. Most likely he was hiding something. He realized that judging by his clothes, he was from some unknown poor sect, and there was nothing to do in such a sect without being imitated. He got angry and said that he was just a garbage loser from some incredible sect, so he would now deal with him and show him who was really in charge here. He said that he is now teaching him manners so that he understands how to behave in society because otherwise he will not be able to exist normally. He realized that this was still the same strike of heavenly thunder, but this time the energy level was much higher, and now he wanted to kill him completely. He understood that if he fought back, his brothers could get hurt. He didn't know how to deal with this because people shouldn't die because of some idiot. The guy was able to come up with one ingenious trick and therefore pushed off from the ground in order to bring him down immediately, and then he simply would not be able to get where he needed to. Chan ran away and sat down at the table with the girl who played that instrument. He already gave her a musical instrument for a second so that he could repel this attack and absolutely everyone would remain alive. This angered this guy even more, and he said that he had no right to do this at all. After all, he wants to look down on him. He got angry and said that he was finished, but he began to make some smooth sounds on this instrument so that he would calm down. He started playing some very strange melody to get him to calm down and activate his strings in the right rhythm. Chan started playing this song that he was talking about earlier. The guy somehow sang this song very surprisingly, and some kind of energy was activated around him, and the girl also did not understand how he knew that very song and how to perform it. That impudent man realized that he was able to activate the art of sound so that he could repel this blow and not cause damage around him. But he couldn't believe that he could learn everything at once, so he decided to most likely blame everything on fate right away so as not to suffer later. The girl was shocked by how he played. He only had the pleasure of playing this song. After all, he also understood that thanks to it he could activate the art of sound and also repel the attack that psychopath wanted to inflict. Due to the fact that he was inadequate, he said that such attacks could not repel him because they were just some pathetic tricks. He activated the art of thunder and went to attack him. But the guy felt harmony and was confident that everything would be fine. Thanks to this powerful sound force, he was able to neutralize the enemy and create a pleasant atmosphere around. The girl started crying because he took her instrument and wanted to hit her. And she asked him not to break it because she was dear to him like a memory. He told her not to worry because he could leave her safe and sound and wouldn't break her. Such a powerful force began to act on this guy, and he felt that most likely some stupid schoolboy could beat him. The girl asked him to stop immediately because she felt that now she was no longer at ease, and as if everything around her was now against her. He was able to activate the last move, which was called Flawless World, on this instrument and wanted to finish off this new one, which almost killed his brother. Such a powerful force began to hit him, and his eyes practically flew out to another world. Such a powerful force was able to break through an entire wall and throw this impudent guy far away with the help of pink abilities. No one could believe that he was able to break down the wall just thanks to some instrument and the fact that he knew how to play it correctly. This guy felt incredible pain, and everyone else didn't believe that the little guy could do such a strange performance. She noticed that the wall was completely destroyed. Not only did he sing all the lines that she didn't even know about, he was also able to destroy it with the help of the art of sound. The guy understood that given his condition, using the art of sound and playing this instrument at the same time was quite difficult. He realized that he still needed to make sure that she could play this instrument correctly and that it was generally working. The guy gave her her instrument and asked if she could play for him. The girl didn't understand what he was talking about, but he reminded her that he asked to play about the night on a certain mountain because he had asked her about it for a long time. After he managed to change everything, the wall was destroyed, and no one could believe that it was really true. The same guy who suffered very badly began to ask what was happening to him because he felt very bad after being beaten by that impudent guy. They shouted at him to wake up and come to his senses because the loss of such an important person would be a tragedy for them if the master. He said that he had already woken up, but the dudes were in a lot of pain because they beat him before he woke up. He asked what kind of hole happened, and no one could believe that he could make such big problems in this city. The smarter ones said that their older brother had finally woken up, so there was no more time for songs, and therefore they needed to get out of here as quickly as possible. He said that they had already paid a lot, and that's why he wanted to leave only after he could listen to the song. He said that this is indeed a fact, but this person whom he touched was not easy, and if the Imperial Army came to him, they would not be able to do anything. He said that this guy could really easily make them look like criminals. Therefore, it was necessary to move from here as quickly as possible because otherwise they could die. He said that there was no need to worry about it because he controlled everything and everything is still under his control. He said that someone else started it first. This idiot will still complain even if they ask not to do it. He said that if they were afraid they could go. The guys got angry. After all, they couldn't leave their brother here alone because they were like one and loved each other like brothers. Still, they decided that it was time for them to stay and listen to the song that their younger brother wanted a girl with incredible shape to play. He said that she would immediately play it. After all, he had long wanted to listen to it. The girl first wanted to ask him something very important because she couldn't believe her eyes that he was able to kill this man with the help of art. He said that all this will be God, and first he wants to listen to the song for which he came here in the first place. She said that she had no choice and therefore she would start playing as soon as he asked her, so she took it. She started again some song about hard days that were very sad, but she didn't even want to say anything about it. She understood that she needed to devote herself to this song and therefore began to play some very interesting notes so that the guy could listen to everything. The girls didn't really like playing this, but she had no choice since she worked for money because that's her life. The guy liked listening to this song, but it was clear from his face that this song had been known to him for a very long time and he understood how difficult its meaning was. He tried to penetrate this song to get back to those very times that were the best in his life. He knew that this song was sung in the plains and there were a lot of warriors there who were ready for the massive battle that was about to begin. He knew that it was a legendary masterpiece that highlighted the performer's unwavering spirit as well as power. Even though the author was already on the verge of falling, he was able to express the deepest notes which later nevertheless translated into the most brilliant meaning. But now this song was completely different because it was simply spoiled and it completely ceased to carry that cult. He told her to stop because this was already enough for him to understand that the true world could not bear the whole meaning of this song. His brothers asked what happened to him because the others really liked the way she played even though it was a new track. She asked why he asked her to stop because she thought that he simply didn't like her performance. He stood up and turned around, but the girl couldn't even understand why he behaved this way because she did everything as needed and wanted to play this song in the best way. He said that he had already been able to hear enough. Therefore, he needed to move already because his time was worth a lot of money. The girl screamed for him to stay because she wanted to understand what the problem was because she knew that if he just leaves so easily it means that there is something wrong with the song. He asked why she decided to leave him because he could not understand how she even had the conscience to tell him. The girl could not understand what he was talking about and thought that he had already lost his mind. The guy explained that an experienced person is able to identify tissue with one touch. They evaluate students by aura, and the same with music. He said that she was trying to use tricks to hide the song's own purpose and she could probably fool someone but not him. His brothers felt very confused because they understood that they had now insulted one of the most beautiful women in this world. His brothers began to apologize because they didn't like their brother's behavior. They tried to do everything to make amends. The girl realized that that guy was able to see right through her just like then. It was simply brilliant. He remembered the moment when the old man asked if she could pull it off because her performance was a pathetic parody. She could not even think that she would hear such words again only from another guest, and this person managed to use the melody as a weapon. He looked very young, but his superior skills and art of sound were amazing, and within 2 songs he was able to see the truth of it. Also, this guy knows the last verse that she hasn't even heard of. He has changed a lot during the time they haven't seen each other. She didn't understand how he was able to master sound. Moreover, he was able to mention her teacher, and most likely he knows something about the past, and also if her guesses are correct then the problem will be on a different scale. The girl did not believe that this was the same son of the hero about whom there were a lot of legends, although he was very weak. Once upon a time, in one of the greatest clans that nurtured real geniuses in the art of sound, there was one very experienced person. The guy could not believe that a girl who served as such an experienced cone could become an ordinary courtesan. He understood that her playing style was clearly related to this great clan, and that she was completely different. She also did not follow the principle of harmony. Most likely she does not know any martial arts, and judging by her appearance she is most likely the daughter of that very head of the music clan. Chana knew that this was the only person who kept his promise to him 14 years ago, and most likely he fell very low that he had to sell his daughter to a brothel. The guys didn't understand what was happening to their brother because he behaved completely differently, and for some reason he suddenly attacked her. The guy said that this girl really ruined the reputation of her clan. The guys couldn't understand how he knew what clan she came from. He began to ask him from above or about one of the 5 greatest clans, the one that was known for the art of sound. The nerd actually knew about this. He couldn't understand what this guy was saying because among the 5 great clans this clan didn't exist at all. Most likely he was a very long time ago. The guy couldn't believe what he heard because most likely he had made a lot of mistakes. After all, this clan was very famous. Everyone knew that there were only 5 great clans, of which the strongest was the Sichuan Tang clan. After he found out this information, he could not understand what kind of new clan the nerd said about. He replied that he only listed the 5 great clans. He couldn't believe his ears that one of the greatest clans had been ousted. He also said that once upon a time there was one clan that called itself the descendants of this clan. The guy said that this is the same clan. He said that absolutely everyone who participated in this clan was already dead, and there was no one left at all. After such information, a shock appeared on his face, and he could not believe that it was true because the clan was not in bad condition. Chan began to ask him what happened because people say that the rich man will have 3 more years before bankruptcy. The guy said that he heard how they were all expelled from this alliance and probably then they all died. But after such information he could not stand it and began to shout at him because he said that they themselves were an orthodox sect. He said that there were rumors that the clan had entered into a conspiracy with one demon, and after that no one knew anything at all. Chan, because it was all because of him when he then decided to enter into an agreement with this person. He couldn't understand what was wrong with that girl because she only looked like someone who could come from that legendary clan. Meanwhile, some strange things were happening on the mountain because the guys had disappeared for a long time, but someone came there. The doors suddenly began to open, and it was unclear who would want to enter this house. Most likely he wanted to sneak in unnoticed. This man began to look out the window and turned out to be some kind of robot who would now really create something. This was the same guy who got really hurt after the guy was able to kick his ass. He was very angry with him. The guy said that I have been asking for 10 years since he joined the mountain sect to avenge his parents, but this guy managed to disgrace him. Although he wanted to take revenge on him very strongly because what he did to him was simply not acceptable to social norms. He remembers how his older brother constantly called the guy for a personal conversation, and most likely it was not all for bad intentions. But still he is sure that this brother gave him some kind of elixir or ordinary special combat skills because it was simply unrealistic to remain only strong in a short time, but still he was not told about it. That's why he came to learn all these martial arts himself, and the reason he does it is because everyone betrayed him. Both the teacher and the elder brother suddenly took the side of this freak, and therefore he wanted to study absolutely everything in order to become much stronger. He was able to find a book that had a title like The Divine Art of the Purple Dawn. That is why he realized that it was very similar to the Purple Sunset divine art often used in battle. The guy had never heard of it before, but so he needed to study it thoroughly. He realized that this was another secret teaching. He said that he is completely sure that it is connected with a deity. Therefore, he needs to completely master it, and with such knowledge he will break this guy. He continued to read, but could not understand what else it was because he was able to notice some strange detail. The guy was able to understand that some pages were completely blank and nothing was written there at all, and it didn't even look like they had just been replaced. He realized that nothing would work here. It was time to leave here because they could find him here and it would end with very bad consequences. That is why when he had already collected everything he still decided to go out again through the window so that they could not declassify him. He had already landed down and it would seem that everything would be fine now. After all, he was able to understand another technique and will be able to practice it for years. But after he came down, he noticed someone passing by. And this scared him very much, and he realized that he had been exposed during the campaign. The student was asked what he was doing there, and his mentor was very unhappy that he noticed him at home. This made him angry, and he didn't even know what to answer because it was his older brother to whom he couldn't lie. The elder asked him to tell everything honestly what exactly he was looking for there, otherwise he would receive a very bad punishment. The guy replied that he himself knows this very well. I just want to become much stronger than these stupid children who still believe in fairy tales. The elder brother asked him if he had found the answer to his question because he wanted to know if he was able to find something that he did not want to spread. But the guy didn't answer that he had found a secret teaching and he knows that you can't do that. But if he can give him a chance, then everything can change. The older brother told him that he had not yet come to his senses and he was doing very stupid things that should have been avoided. The elder was very emotional and asked what chance can be given to a person who has a thirst for blood and is unable to control himself. He asked if he was ashamed for wanting to kill him. The guy understood that it was impossible to say such a thing and asked his teacher if he had heard what he said. This was not confirmed. The guy said that it was he and his teacher who acted from the stitch, but not him. He was disgusted for learning such bad things about their deeds. The elder brother did not accept what he was saying and became even more angry. After all, he did not understand what had gripped him. He said that from the very first day, he followed the instructions and did absolutely everything to make him love him because he believed that he would become one of the best. He spent an incredible amount of time training and cared about his brothers more than himself. The guy spent incredible energy there, and now it's unfair that they spit in his face when making a choice in favor of this guy. The older brother did not understand what he was talking about and why they think that now this boy who is very young can do incredible things. The offended one said that he had known everything for a long time. I know that they shared with this guy a secret teaching thanks to which he became stronger. The elder brother did not understand what he was talking about because how could one have an older teaching and also the nonsense that he was talking about? He said that he understands everything and the fact is that he is the son of a great hero. And even if this is so, it does not give him any privileges. He told him that absolutely all people now having equal rights must understand that they are not better than each other and therefore they all had to sail in the same boat. The elder brother felt that this guy was clouded in his mind. If he didn't stop now, then some kind of grief would happen to her. The older brother hugged him and said that he understands when there are difficult periods in life. He said that you just need to accept it and move on because otherwise he will bury his life. He also added that he was defeated by the declared superiority of this guy and he himself was to blame for his weakness. He screamed and told him to close his mouth and could not stand it and hit his mentor who was trying to teach him only the best. But thanks to the fact that the mentor was much stronger, he was able to return from such a banal leg move. It hurt him that he attacked his teacher. The guy continued to strike at him because he wanted to end this completely with victory so that no one could stop him from thriving. He didn't care and he landed on his hands and wanted to continue to kill this teacher who gave a privilege to one student in his opinion. He shouted that this stupid teacher did not understand anything and he still had a lot to show in this vile world. He shouted that he was just a pathetic mentor of a useless sect and continued to fight with him because he wanted to end this. The guy shouted that he couldn't even imagine how betrayed he was because he had to go through incredible years of pain to be abandoned now. He delivered another lightning strike that passed close to his mentor's head, which could have simply killed him instantly. The offended one said that he was betrayed by this sect, but they themselves made a huge mistake. Therefore, he had no other choice but to take revenge. The teacher noticed something was really trying to do everything to kill him, and his blows were completely filled with thirst for blood. He said that he never taught martial arts to those who are ready to succumb to their anger. The guy continued to kill him and said that they had no right to do this to him. He understood that if he was left he would follow the path of the demon and these would be fatal mistakes, so he simply could not allow this to happen even if he had to use a little force. He said that he did not need to be brought to his senses immediately so that he could understand where he was now and who he was fighting with. That is why his mentor activated his superpowers, thanks to which he was able to knock him out in the moment so that he would understand who he started fighting with. After such a powerful blow, he began to cough and experience incredible pain due to the fact that the teacher was able to use his force on him. The teacher was ready to talk with him, so he went downstairs to discuss such tricky problems. He told him to understand his actions and then not regret that he would have to die. But the guy wiped the blood from his face. The teacher said that he could fix his inner demon, and so he reached out to him with the help of his purple magic. He understood that if he could not block this blow, he would already be dead. He had to do something in order to stay alive. The guy got angry and said that he wouldn't even think about falling to his knees and begging for mercy. Elder brother understood his intention and had no other choice how to send him such a gift. He threw some kind of technique at him which he was able to activate with the help of his energy, a huge purple sword. The offended one noticed that this was energy that could be strengthened. He had read about this somewhere a long time ago, but now it was almost impossible. He couldn't believe that his mentor had him use it. He told the guy to get ready now, he'll have to get everything. The teacher still wanted to punish him for the atrocities that he wanted to do, so he decided to release this blow directly at him. This huge ball activated right above his head, and he was ready to deal a crushing blow with it that would cut off his head. The guy saw this and felt that now he would really die because he had never seen such power before. His teacher was ready to strike that blow because he understood that it was necessary to kill him because the devil would not have come out of him otherwise. He knew that this was a very secret sword skill, and the roots of this sex skill were only trying to train a few warriors to let them know it. This was a secret technique of the absolute family that only the most experienced and strongest martial artists could obtain. The guy didn't understand what was happening and realized that he was not at all up to the level of his master. Therefore, he just had to accept his defeat. He told him to be very careful because he could immediately stick him in one of the daggers. The guy said that he couldn't believe that this was the same energy that was spoken about in the legends, and now he sees it live. He said that there was no reason for them to infect him with a pathetic problem. And for him it was as easy as shelling pears to understand how to deal with it further. As everyone knew, hundreds of years ago, when the mountain sect succeeded in the War of the 5 Mountain Schools, a lot of useful things happened. The guy could no longer control the power that was provided to him by his opponent, who was far from his. As always, everyone knew that then she had adopted almost all sword techniques, and the guy was very difficult to fight against her. He realized that this was not all. Therefore, you had to stay in the battle because otherwise you will lose. Everyone knew that the followers had reworked all the sword techniques and developed their own, thanks to which they became invincible. One of the first techniques turned out to be, at first glance, the art of the sword, which was controlled by almost no one. This technique was passed on only to the great hero and then to him so that he could take full responsibility for this section. This huge sword could break thousands of blows from the essence of a fist, so everyone understood that he simply had no equal in such capabilities. That is why he activated this technique, so that the guy would understand absolutely the whole essence of this matter. Still, he managed to activate the gap with one blade, and he had no choice at all because he wanted to become a heavenly demon. Thanks to such a powerful force, he had no options, and he killed this student because he did not control himself, and for this he had to pay very dearly. After he activated this powerful force in the earth, there were a lot of problems with the structure that needed to be solved. Fortunately, he was able to hit this blade next to the guy, and he didn't even hit him. This means that he wanted to give him another life. The mentor asked him if he now understood that it is very dangerous to use martial art in anger, so you had to control all your emotions that you are trying to show. Offended, he asked why he didn't kill him. After all the signs were that you were done with this once and for all and the guy would be dead. The elder brother said that he would close his eyes to what happened today, but as punishment he would train with the wall for a year. These were his conditions. He told him to think about his past mistakes and also take care of his body and mind. After all, they are still very lame. The elder brother said that he also believes that one day his tree will bear beautiful fruits and he will become the greatest master. But due to the fact that this guy was a nit, he could not control his emotions and therefore attacked him in the back, which was simply disgusting. After that, the teacher began to bleed from his mouth, and this turned out to be the final killing move that only a demon could do. After he saved him, he realized that he needed to take advantage of the moment but finished him off despite the fact that he gave him a second chance. After that, absolutely all the guys continued to return home and also said that they had to pay for all the damage caused in that case. The fashionista asked this guy what kind of nonsense happened because he wanted to understand why he had to pay a huge amount of money. Also, the older brother began to ask him why he was staring and what had just happened. Unfortunately, they were able to notice this. Everyone could see that their palace began to burn, and it turned out to be some strange but very evil act. They understood that the sect was now burning, and they had no other choice but to escape from here. After all, they no longer had any obligations to this clan. The guys moved forward. After all, they wanted to see who dared to do this because they needed to figure out absolutely everything. This sect began to burn, and it seemed that only some demon could do it, but by some paradox, the demon was not there. The fashionista told them to figure it out and go in search of people. First, you need to put out the fire. The guys tried to find someone, but they didn't succeed at all because the sect continued to burn. They didn't find anyone because everything had already started to burn and no one could show up. It was very scary because they lost everyone during the campaign. They wanted to figure out what happened to the teachers. After all, they hoped that everything was fine with them now. Chan was moving exactly there to deal with this because he wanted to get there as soon as possible to save his teachers. The guy arrived at the place where he was, but that didn't stop him because he understood that the price of people's lives was much higher. He tried to find the one for whom he ran here in the first place through all this danger. He understood that he needed to understand where they were as soon as possible. He moved forward and felt a very weak charge of energy that was fully revealed. The guy realized that this energy belonged to his teacher who was already dead because that scoundrel did this to him. He realized that his older brother had already begun to die because his body was simply pierced through due to the fact that he really acted like a real nit. Chan tried with all her might to make him come to his senses because we hope that his teacher will still be alive because he can tell him a lot more. And the older brother said that he did not see anything and therefore he could not understand who it was. He hoped that he could save him, but it was already too late. The guy began to ask who dared to do such meanness to their sect. He couldn't believe that it was really true because everything was perfect. The elder brother did not tell him the truth because he understood that then there would be even more problems. Therefore, he had to remain silent. He said that it was his karma and therefore he should not worry about him dying now. The elder brother told him to dry it immediately because these are the last words he speaks in his life. He told him to be with him. After all, he is he and he must understand that he must fight only for his name. The elder brother tells him not to appropriate the title of son of a great hero to himself, but to become one himself. The guy was shocked by what he heard. The older brother said that now that he is lying on the verge of death, he understands that the main thing is to live his life and everyone who is Slava means nothing at all. The guy didn't understand what he was talking about because he started saying some strange words that meant practically nothing. He told him one very important thought so that he should never succumb to anger because after that he will face death from which he cannot avoid. He told him that anger is the strongest and fastest way to lose yourself, so he had to control it. He told him to live by the call of his heart and feel what he needs to do now at the moment. He also said that there will be times when he will feel completely overwhelmed by loss. But then he needs to remember the plum blossom technique. The guy could not understand how he still had any strength to speak instructions because he was already completely dying. The guy thanked him and told him to lie down because he wanted to take care of his wounds. He understood that no one else would do it except him. After someone began to feel pain, he no longer wanted anything and understood that this was the last second of his life. Unfortunately, he lost it, and these were the last words he told him so that he would never believe his anger. The elder brother felt very bad, and he was already dying and did not say anything to him. These were the last words that he was able to convey to him. The guy understood that he was about to die. Most likely he had already died and was simply showing him that he should follow his feelings. He said that he was just a stupid idiot who didn't tell him anything and just died despite the fact that he had to tell complete information. The guy realized that he was just saying some very smart words and didn't even say who was behind all this because he wanted to find out who could set fire to their house and also kill one of the best masters. He said that he didn't even know who was to blame, but he would find this gift and do it so that he would be punished, but not in order to make amends for the death of this person. The guy said that he wants to pay for what he did to his house, and after all, if you affect other people's abodes, then you are a freak. That is why he began to activate some strange power and said that he owns a martial art that is capable of revealing memories through energy. He was also able to do this. After all this way, he could understand who was behind all this and also who needed to be killed for it. The guy barely had a video, but then he was still able to understand who it was and realized that this bastard needed to be punished. He couldn't believe his eyes that it was really true, and now he needs to deal with the one who turned out to be his brother. The guy who wanted to kill him is sitting there because he humiliated him right in front of everyone. He realized that this was his doing and therefore he should tell everything to the others so that they would know what this scoundrel would do next. The old man returned and did not understand what was happening here because his house began to burn. And this sect was one of the most important parts of his life. The guy wanted to tell him that his older brother had already died, and he needed to bury the body because no one could understand that this was really true. The other brothers could not understand how he was able to find it and why it happened to him at the moment. The old man didn't understand how it all happened because just recently it had been good and they had a day off so they could have fun. The old man saw this corpse and did not believe that it was really falling. He wanted to live with this guy much longer. The old man did not believe in this and also began to ask him who could commit the arson because he wanted to understand who was behind it. The guy replied that he already believed that someone had already killed him. The old man did not believe why he was killed, and he needed some arguments in order to take the guy at his word. Chan said that the fire was just an attempt to hide the murders because he wanted to do it very competently so that no one could see that he was killed. The old man began asking if he had any evidence and wanted to hear at least one of them because arguments come first. The guy didn't know that now he needed to prove his theory, and so he had to find at least some clue to explain. The guy told him to look at the wounds on his chest and back, because that way he could see who was behind it, and he was very disgusted to watch his brother die now. Still, he needed to figure it out, and he noticed that there was a wound in the shape of a flower, which means that someone committed murder due to the fact that he was in their sect. This technique was the essence of fists, and everyone knew that in this sect only the old man, two guys, and the teacher himself mastered this technique. The fashionista said that the guy was with them the whole time, so it definitely wasn't him, but there's only one option left. They said that they had not seen him for a very long time, and most likely it was the offended one who did it. The fashionista couldn't believe that this was really true because if this guy was behind it all, he would pay very well for it. They did not understand how he managed to kill him because his older brother was much stronger than this offended one. The fashionista got angry and said that this country was taught to ban technology without permission, and he is not surprised that he was able to do it. He also said that you couldn't sit idle and you had to do something about it because otherwise it would simply disappear. They had to find the idiot and punish him. Chan told them not to say anything stupid. After all, if he was able to defeat his older brother, then he would definitely be able to punish them. But he had too many emotions, and he said that even if it costs his life, he must avenge his brother. The guy thought very smartly and said that he was very strong to kill, and if they get hung up on the spot, he will be next. The eldest told everyone to calm down because they needed to give the parts to their older brother who was dying right before their eyes. They began to apologize because it was not at all cultural to behave this way in front of the corpse of their brother. The old man said that the guy is just a suspect and they don't have full charges yet to consider him dead. Without even clearing the ruins of the burnt sect of this sect, they began the funeral ceremony. While the members were ready to let go of their older brother, everyone else wanted to make sure that everything was in its place. Two very faithful guys said that they are ready to avenge their older brother because one day they must drag his head to his grave. The eldest said that the guy should at least raise a glass to the death of his older brother because it was necessary to change him. The guys poured a glass so that he, like everyone else, would bury his brother and send him on a long journey. The guy says that his reflection was there, and thanks to the fact that he showed him all these memories, now he needs to deal with it. The guys didn't like the fact that he told him a lot of nonsense about fame and about the mountain sect. He himself would not be better because he was only thinking about how to make everyone stronger and also teach his younger brothers something more so that they could bring back the legends. The old man asked what he was thinking about and why he didn't bring the glass. After all, everyone should have mentioned the peace of his older brother. The old man told him to bring the glass because it was a very important thing that could not be ignored, and everyone else told him to. The guy just drank this glass and didn't give it to him because he wanted to do one very ingenious action. The guy said that the drink should have been offered to his older brother, so now he will explain all the time. The guy said that when they complete their revenge, the culprit of all this himself will bring the glass to his brother's grave. The old man realized that this guy was very difficult. Therefore, it was better not to argue with him, and he agreed with him. But during the funeral, what they feared most happened, and one of the guys ran to the teacher. The old man began to scold him because he started screaming very loudly because it was impossible to make noise at the funeral of such a respected person. He told him that there were government troops there, so it was necessary to deal with them. But despite the fact that the funeral is now underway, these soldiers shouted for the criminals to come out. After all, they already wanted to get rid of what he did to one of the most respected people in the city. The old man came out. I said that everything is fine with them now, and why did they come if all the documents had already been signed? And the warrior said that a young man named Chan tried to harm the son of the Grand Counselor, and they are here to sketch this criminal. Therefore, it is better for them to obey orders. The elder said that it was a completely fair fight, so they shouldn't complain, especially since he was the first to start. The guy came forward and said that he did it because he wanted to figure it out so that they would understand who they were dealing with. They said that they needed to bring him down immediately because he had caused a lot of problems for the government and they needed to deal with him. The guy shouted for everyone to stop and not move, and now he will deal with it like a man, as it had already been decided. It was simply unfair. After all, they come with the government in order to protect someone, a dishonest advisor who himself started it. One of the strongest warriors said that everyone should disperse because now they needed to sort things out like men so that they would understand who I was dealing with. One huge warrior came out from there and asked him what he just said. He wanted to tell him that he was just an idiot. The brute told him to repeat what he said, because he wanted to know how immortal he was and also how brave he was. This was one of the strongest students of the great clan who was among the top 5 best. The guy said that they were talking behind a shield, but an innocent person. He told him that something would not happen here, as he said, and he would very much regret that he opened his mouth. This guy said that you all stepped aside and now he can deal with him one-on-one because this scoundrel has already talked himself to death. The guy realized that this bastard has absolutely no self-respect because obviously he built everything so that this army, which is very weak, would come with one strong one. He knew that they really made a special deal so that he could fight him one-on-one, and he killed him. Most likely due to the fact that the advisor decided to do this, they had to call on the great clan to calm him down. The guys were already ready to destroy each other because this battle should have taken place a very long time ago. The guy replied that he was ready to fight him 11, and now he would definitely pay for coming to him. He said that he was Salaga and his elders were killed by a demon a long time ago. It was very funny because in fact the heavenly demon was inside this guy. The guy began to defend. I said that nevertheless, thanks to the efforts of the sect, they were able to repel this demon. The guy from the other clan got even angrier and said that for hanging his tongue here, he was just cutting off his head. He ran at him and said that now he would test him how strong he was and also look at what he could do and not just scratch with his tongue. Zhang expected that he would have the same technique that they all used, which was called a heavenly thunderstrike. The technique is good, but they have long been ineffective because he can easily block it, and he has been honing his skills for a very long time. However, he cannot use the techniques of other sects in front of his brothers. He understood that the essence of the Fist of the Mountain was the only thing he could use now, because for anything else he would simply be kicked out of the sect. He knew that there was no such thing as a blossoming plum tree. Therefore, he had to adhere to so that everyone understood that he was from there. He felt that life energy through effort, and thanks to this flowering, he could do everything normally. He managed to activate the very essence of the Fist of the Mountain and the grip of the plum blossom, and finally, he was ready to blow off his head with all the techniques. The guys did not understand how their brother learned this in such a short period. After all, they themselves thought that it was unrealistic. But due to the fact that he activated this technique for a very long time, he was already attacked from behind. But fortunately, he had good brothers who advised him in time. Still, he managed to block a blow that was already coming straight to his face with his right foot. There was no way to block such a strong blow, and therefore the guy flew very far and also met the wall face first. After that, he got even more angry, otherwise he would do very bad things to him, so that he would understand that he had to apologize. The older guy said that if this was the same technique of the essence of the Fist of the Mountain, then he would not succeed because he was quite inexperienced. He said that now it was his turn and he would definitely now show him what real guys need to do. He asked how he felt about this blow, and it was a triple blow from heavenly thunder that could simply tear him into small pieces like ordinary trees. The guys understood that he would not withstand such a powerful blow and something had to be done with him, otherwise he would be dead. Even the old man understood that judging by the blow the opponent had reached the rank of a first-class martial artist, he needed to intervene. But the old man also cannot. If he does this, then there will be a fierce war and one had to rely only on the guy himself. The older ones shouted that he was finished now and that he would tear him into small pieces for the fact that he was even born. He understood that he would have no chance to escape. Therefore, he made a blow that could tear everything around. By some miracle, he didn't get it, so the guy found out that he had simply wasted all his strength. The guy stood very firmly and calmly was able to parry his blow, which was at the first-class level. Chan said that for him it was just a mosquito bite and nothing more. The battle continued further, and so they continued to fight one-on-one because they wanted to get victory. The opponent did everything to make him feel uncomfortable, and he was even ready to cheat in order to benefit himself. The first-class master said that today he would make an exception and make his long tongue much shorter and also kill him altogether. Chan felt that now there would be that same explosive thunderclap about which there were already a lot of rumors. The opponent understood that he was not yet so stupid as not to even predict his attack. He even said that he was very smart, but it was already too late. The guy understood that he had hoped to activate this stupid power of the Fist of the Mountain, and he had to use all his strength and skills in 1 second. The brothers watched him and understood that the essence of the Fist of the Mountain would not stop the explosive blow, and if he could deliver it correctly, then most likely his brother would die. They knew that this blow consumed a lot of energy, and even if he touched it with the tip of his finger, the guy would definitely not survive. The rival said that he had completely lost his mind and now he would pay for what he did because it was illegal to touch the royal family. But the guy was so smart that he was able to simply run away from him and get rid of this attack thanks to the fact that he was able to move. The opponent felt some kind of fear and was able to break even an entire wall, but it was all in vain because the guy competently ran away from him. The opponent did not understand how this was possible because he thought that he would already lie dead and beg for mercy, but everything turned out differently. The guy realized that he couldn't waste a second, but he still had to dodge the blows that this abnormal psychopath inflicted. The guy felt that he needed to make sure that the petals moved in the wind, and thanks to this ability he would kill him. He wanted to subdue the wind, and even his brothers were shocked that he was doing such master classes. The opponent said that he was just mocking him, and now he would be very angry and also show everything he was capable of. But it was already too late, and Chan managed to make a very powerful blow that pierced him through, and also showed that the battle was over. The opponent began to cough up blood due to the fact that he was able to break his energy and also deliver a very accurate and first-class blow. He couldn't believe that it would be his art that could actually kill him because the essence of some mountain was much weaker than he thought. The guy said that this is the essence of the Fist of the Mountain and he is not worthy to fight with him because he cannot learn even basic things. Everyone was happy because this new one was able to defeat such a strong opponent and no one believed in him, not even the eldest himself. But still it was very late. After all, he told them to watch their behavior. After all, they are now at the funeral ceremony of their older brother. They began to apologize because it was impossible to behave as if they were running some kind of amusement park. Today, one of their strongest warriors died, which he was able to teach many, so the guy said that the teacher was right and it was necessary to teach him all about this world. The guy said that he needed to immediately get rid of the interference and quickly go to do everything so that his brother could rest well in peace. He told them to leave immediately because he would fight with absolutely everyone and he didn't care that there were a huge number of them. The guy also said that they have now won the jackpot because they are having a very important ceremony, and it is because of this that he will leave everyone alive. They got very angry and said that these idiots would also dance under their feet because they had made very big mistakes. This huge army began to retreat again. I felt that now was not the best time for them to fight because their leader had died. They understood that it was necessary to end what had happened as soon as possible, and it was necessary to bury their older brother who had long deserved it. Meanwhile, at the other house, it had already become very dark, and everyone went to rest because they felt that now was not the most pleasant time. But there was one old man who sat and wrote a letter because he felt that it was time for him to tell everyone about it a long time ago. It was very difficult for him to write this, and he even bled from his mouth due to the fact that the letter was very frank. The letter stated that he needed to finish his job because he was too old for this crap. That is why he had to give up his title of Great Advisor because they were very outplayed. It was a great advisor. He said that he wanted to leave everything and leave here as far as possible, preferably forever. Some man came to him and said that he needed to come in to discuss one very important thing, although he also wanted to leave here. Still, he had to listen, and so he said that they could enter his room to discuss what they came for. Another man came into the room and said that he had one very important matter that needed to be discussed immediately. The old man felt some kind of hostility towards this man and began to tell him that he did not want to understand his son's case. The guy sat down on his knees and began to apologize to him because he didn't think at all that the old man already knew this, and he hoped that he would spare him. He said that he did not want to disturb him on his way to the emperor, and he had many reasons not to do so. He told him that nothing could be changed. Therefore, it was necessary for him to tell him everything. He told him that the young master got into a fight where there were 300 soldiers, and therefore they had no chance, so they had to retreat. The old man understood that he was lying to him and therefore said that if he really was with that clan and 300 soldiers and did not kill one guy, then he deserves to die. The man said that he had no excuse, but he really had no choice because the guy was very strong. The old man could not believe that his son had lied, and it was indeed some very strange idol. The man said that this young man from the incredible mountain sect was very strong, which is why he was able to repel his son. He realized that most likely this was the same dishonest fellow who was able to steal a courtesan from his son. The man thought that this was really some kind of nonsense, but then when he saw the fight with his own eyes, he realized that this guy was really very strong. He also brought evidence and said that it was the testimony of that same courtesan. The old man saw that his son was the first to start a fight, and the young man began to fight back. As one could understand, it was a very fair fight. The old man was angry because he could not raise his son, and when he most needed his love, he was busy with politics. The man told the elder that he was innocent because the other two young gentlemen grew up to be wonderful people. The old man felt that he was to blame anyway, and therefore told him not to reassure him with some stupid nonsense. He couldn't understand that someone would make such a joke of him with her, but he was ready to do everything to make the situation in the country better. The man told him some strange things, told him not to say stupid things, and if he decided to hand him over to the bandits, then he would resign. He didn't understand why this was really happening, but he told him to shut his mouth because he had already decided everything for himself a long time ago. The old man said that he was already very tired, and he could no longer tolerate lies. He wanted to live a normal life where everyone tells him the truth. The man said that this was not the end, and everything would have to be done to punish the guy who dared to remove such a smart man from the throne. The man said that most likely they bribed the courtesan to give them the correct testimony, but the old man said that his son had already committed too many problems. The man shouted that he could not prove everything differently because it was necessary to achieve justice, although it had already been achieved. The man understood that if he was a judge, very bad rumors would spread about what he tried for his son. Therefore, it was necessary to do it correctly. The man said that he is very responsible and also very smart. Therefore, he should go to the gentleman to solve this problem. The old man said it would be very nice, and he also wanted to know what the guy's name was because he wanted to know absolutely everything about how he was able to kick his son's ass. The old man understood that if he is a mountain sect, then most likely this is the greatest sect that disappeared many years ago. Meanwhile, the guy was sitting under a tree and engaged in development because he understood that he needed to move much faster towards his goal, otherwise he would simply lose momentum. He also understood that most likely this guy would at least twist everything and tell him that the sect allegedly caused a lot of problems. All this time he lived according to the philosophy of the strongest moving forward without looking back, and thanks to what happened a couple of days ago, he realized that his path was not so simple. As he expected, he needed to get that very book that was called the Sunflower Teaching, and it was in it that everything he needed was stored. He knew that this was an absolute demonic art that gave incredible strength and also allowed him to freely advance and attack. He wanted to gain glory again. That's why he needed this book. But the problem was that he could be castrated again, and he only managed to get this precious part of his body back. The guy understood that he couldn't make hasty decisions and needed to do everything very competently so that everyone would remain alive. He also knew that only an old man could teach him this teaching. Moreover, this teaching was left in a secret storage facility, and it was practically closed. If you think about it like that, then he is the only person in the world who knows about it, and he needs to try again to remember it. The guy tried, but nothing worked, although he already believed that he was about to be able to understand that legendary teaching again. Unfortunately, he forgot everything, and he will be really very upset because he thought that he could get it. And even if we remember all his arts starting from ice, he was able to remember all the techniques. But this is not the case. He was very angry because it was as if someone had deliberately gotten into his head and stolen this teaching. He tried to find him to do this. His friend asked what it was doing now, and he noticed that he was being followed and it looked pretty bad. The older brother said that the teacher was calling him and he should come to him to talk with him about one very important topic. He couldn't believe that the teacher was calling him, although he thought that he would live in peace and no one would disturb him. He came to the teacher's tent while they began to rebuild everything else due to the fact that everything had burned down. He invited him and told him to come in and not be shy. The guy said that he was fine and also wanted to know why he suddenly needed it. The old man said that he had a very big request for him, which he must fulfill in order for their relationship to remain good. The guy said that he was ready to fulfill it and would even listen despite the fact that he was now looking for a very important matter. The old man told him to listen to his order because he was the leader of the sect on the mountain and he also needed someone to train other people. He said that he is now appointing him as an instructor who must explain to all the brothers how to use such powerful energy. The old man said that the responsibilities of this position are not limited to just training, although this is one of the most important missions. He also told him that he could take the position of leader. The guy couldn't believe that he chose him as a follower of his older brother, but although it was clear such a position, in principle he knew that this would happen. Therefore, he had no other choice but to kneel in front of him and accept such an important position. The guy said that he takes it with a big part, and the old man said that he relies on him very much, so he should understand what kind of responsibility it is. A few seconds later, their older brother came in, who always liked to show off the fact that he had rich parents. He wanted to ask something. The elder asked who came in there, and the fashionista said that he would like to know what they were talking about. The old man told him to come in because something needed to be discussed. After all, if he came to him, it was clearly not just like that. Another person came in with him, with whom it was necessary to discuss some very important matters because the guy had caused a lot of problems lately. He said that he was even pleased to see him, but since he is the sect leader, he would like to discuss something. The same man came into their room and said that he was the ward of the great advisor who would like to convey something to him. The old man didn't understand why he came to him to take it, as if they were already able to deal with this whole situation. The man said that the great ruler wants to see one student who has shown incredible abilities here. As it turned out, this was the same Chan about whom there were already a lot of Sukhavs in this village. They said that they would wait for him in the capital. The old man already thought that they were able to resolve this issue, which occurred due to the fact that the guy was able to bend one of the strongest fighters. As it turned out, the old man was already thinking that it would be a fight, but the men explained to him that after hearing the story from beginning to end, his master said something. He clarified that he was very disappointed that they were able to cause the damage that they caused to him in the sect. He also wants to compensate for everything. Such words made him very happy, but they understood that they had to not completely believe them because it could have been some kind of ambush. They noticed that there was indeed a very serious problem, namely a fire, but the old man said that they appreciated his kind offer, but at the moment they did not have the opportunity. Maybe he said that there is no other way, and to tell the truth, the Sir is now in difficulty. Therefore, it was necessary for them to agree to these conditions. The man said that he was trying to use this opportunity to atone for his sins, and therefore he asked them to take his word for it. The old man told them to believe him too. After all, they don't have any time to bring other people to their senses. The guy began to interrupt him and said that since they decided to show some kind of mercy, then they need to show their innocence. The old man understood that they were dealing with a great advisor, and for the revival of the sect, it would not be superfluous to establish ties with the imperial family. The old man said that nothing would work with this, so he understood that it was necessary to send the guy so that he could control everything. The guy got ready on the way. He needed to move forward to come to the imperial family and fully explain all the problems that happened. He didn't understand where they were going now and felt that there was clearly some kind of catch here. No, it was impossible for them to go through the forest. They told him that since he doesn't come to the capital very often, they should understand that they are going. He explained that this is elite transportation. The guy couldn't understand why they were in the same carriage. It confused him very much. The guy also said that he would have gotten there much faster on horseback. The guy started talking to him about how cool he was and said that he was really very cool for his age. The guy felt like a king in this situation. The man was very nervous because he didn't like this guy who thought he was better than everyone else and also thought he was just great. He was much smarter than these stupid old men, so he decided to run out of the carriage and achieve everything himself. The man began to ask why his courier's carriage was shaking so much, and then he noticed that one of the arrows had hit him. Unfortunately, someone was chasing them, and this means that they are about to be killed. The carriage completely crashed, and the guy thought how he could quickly escape from here because he knew that if he didn't do anything he would die. The man could not stand it and ran out of the carriage because he could not understand who dared to do this because he was one of the best in the imperial family. A huge number of arrows flew from there and they came straight towards them to kill these two. The man calmly dealt with these arrows due to the fact that he knew a lot of different techniques that helped him a lot in battle. He realized that these were blue arrows, which meant that they were used by one great clan. He did not understand where the bandits were coming from or near the capital. The man said that the guy should come out because they were attacked and they had to do something to escape from here because if they stay it will be a problem. The man shouted to get out immediately because their lives were hanging by a thread and they also needed to get out of here so they wouldn't be killed. The guy started asking him how they could find out who it was. Most likely it could be some kind of plan that they had just recently set up. The man told him that he could barely fight off the arrows and it was very dangerous for his life, so this was not a trap at all. The man stood up and said that he didn't need his help at all and he could deal with these guys himself. The man said that one day he would still be able to kill him and that's why he wanted him to sit in the carriage and not stick his head out. He started killing these people who were shooting arrows right at him. He said that they will now pay for what they did to him. The man calmly smashed their blades and he felt that he was much stronger than these ordinary warriors. They had no chance to win because they were much weaker and also less experienced than this warrior. The guy noticed that this man knew how to handle a sword very well, which means that he could transfer his energy even into an object. He noticed that due to the fact that he had very strong energetic strikes, he uses a limitless sword. And this all meant that she was from the same clan. The guy continued to monitor this and noticed that the power was not very large and the efficiency was low. If he continued to use energy behind it, a load would come to the body. He said that the idiots who invented this art did not understand at all that there would be very bad consequences for their body. They also needed to make their art as good as possible. The man didn't care and he continued to kill these guys who had really become very insolent. After all, they wanted to take his life. But suddenly he realized that this was a completely different technique and most likely he knows how to possess some incredible power that he still needs to think about. The guy realized that he was using a blade and this was an interesting art of the Japanese blade that only the strongest subordinates could use. Still, he became very interested and wanted to continue to watch this battle. Some of them came from where another healthy guy came out and started asking what was going on here. He told everyone to leave because now he can show them the true strength that lies only in the best warriors. He decided to deal with it himself, but the man didn't care because he was ready to fight against any opponent because for him it was not a problem. The man got very angry and rose up to cut through the head of this bastard who thought that he could just come and start smashing him. The guy said that he was just walking along and thought of using such a magnificent art directly with a blow to the head. It was already clear from his stance that he was about to die. He noticed that this guy uses the ground to defend himself and he can also break the energy with just one blow. Thanks to this, he used such an effective tactic, otherwise he would have to move his sword along the ground. This strength was incredible, so he was able to cut this enemy who thought that he could kill him with such a stupid technique. Still, he was able to lose to him and his sword was cut in half because his blow was very predictable and stupid. After that, he decided to punish him to the fullest and now he was ready to break his whole body up and down. The man tried to fight back with all his might and understood that he was about to die because he no longer controlled his situation and felt that now a very bad death awaited him. He fell to his knees and realized that this was the last second of his life, that he had not yet had time to do anything. The stranger said that it was all over now and he should just leave here so as not to embarrass himself in front of people. The man tried with all his might to withstand such very strong attacks. It was useless because he was much weaker in strength. But suddenly I didn't notice that there was another master here who could kill him completely. Thanks to the fact that the guy intervened, this man survived and now he sees absolutely all his power. The stranger got very angry and asked who this small guy was. He wanted to blow his head off for even existing. The guy said that he was his companion. He wanted to show him that the power was in friendship and it didn't matter where you were from, you had to feel your friend. He said that there was simply a retarded man in love who had now made a death sentence for himself. Chan said that he looks like an old man and so he will leave him alive if he decides to lose to him of his own free will. Not to get acquainted said that he generally said some nonsense and now he will pay for it because it was just some guy and he was one of the most powerful warriors of this forest. But it was already too late because he approached him and was ready to blow his head off with just one direct blow. Chan was very smart and therefore before killing his enemy, he wanted to fully understand his entire history, thanks to which he would become much smarter. He asked him where he was from and he got angry and couldn't control his power, so he decided to swing his blade at him and kill the guy. But it was already too late. After all, he managed to activate one of the most powerful techniques that he had learned while he was in the mountain sect. After this, the healthy person remained alive. although it was very strange because after such a blow usually no one lets his body down. He felt that he was becoming very ill and tried to keep the whole situation in his hands, but he did not succeed at all due to the fact that he underestimated his opponent. The big man said that he now knew very well who he really was, and he began to understand him everything they gave away. Then he calmly learned how he acts against such impudent people. The guy said that he would make him smell the plum blossom, and now he would beg him for mercy so that he would not kill him. The guy started asking him who ordered the ambush because he wanted to find out who was behind it all. The man would have been very scared and didn't even know what to do. After all, he understood that the only word he could say was death. He said that he should retreat and otherwise they would die. They had no option other than to run away. They threw a smoke bomb and the commander told him to be much more careful because this bomb was very dangerous. He was unstoppable because he was simply irresistible who always wanted to go forward. Chan understood that these four were running away and they were much stronger than his previous opponent. Therefore, it would be very difficult for him to fight against them. But since the teachers and brothers were not here, he could calmly deal with them to show who the heavenly demon really was. He began to kill one after another so that they would understand who he really was and that it would be better not to touch the heavenly demon. The stranger shouted for them to stop him by any means because he wanted to save his pathetic skin and supply his troops. Still, they tried to resist him. Nothing worked at all due to the fact that they were much weaker. The guy calmly killed him with his bare hand and was able to cut his body as if with a katana, but it turned out to be just some kind of magic. He rushed forward to punish the most important of them, who believed that he could get rid of it so easily. The big man ran forward to be saved by his very big fat legs, but he didn't succeed at all except to look ridiculous. He still got angry and told him to die immediately and therefore made one attack in order to buy himself some time to escape. But because it was a scoundrel who abandoned his comrades in trouble, he had to pay for it. That's why the guy put his hand on his face to kill him and punish him for all these tricks that he did. Chan said that he simply has no right to be at the top and therefore arrogant people like him will be punished. The guy retyped it to the floor and wanted him to tell him absolutely everything, the truth, thanks to the fact that he used energy. The man asked him to spare him. After all, he felt that there was no way he could win this fight because he was much weaker. Chan asked him once again to answer the question that had been tormenting him for a long time. He wanted to find out who set up the ambush. Unfortunately, he did not find out anything. And a completely different story began. The guy returned back to this man, and the man also began to ask him who was behind this attack. The guy started asking him what he was trying to hide from him because he saw everything with his own eyes and doesn't like it when people lie to him. The guy acts as if he doesn't understand anything at all because he wanted to get as much information as possible so that they couldn't declassify him. The guy wanted to find out what his master was trying to do in order to understand what more advantageous position he wanted to make for his son. This made this man very angry. He told him to watch his words because he would no longer watch his language if he punished him for something. The guy activated his energy and asked what he was ready to do to keep his master warm. Maybe he didn't understand what all this was about, although he saw that he could die at any second as soon as he started touching him. The man told him not to make hasty conclusions, and the guy said that she hid the fact that he was among the same clan. He wanted to know what they were up to. The man said that he wanted not to tell him this information, but he would have to. First, he was going to send him to trial, but the gentleman politely refused. The guy could not believe that even on the brink of death, he was trying to stand up for his master, who had already caused many problems, one of which was his son. The man said that he was also very loyal like an ordinary Japanese. But the guy replied that he understood it all right away and was just checking his information. He lied that he couldn't find out who was standing. She was falling because the bandits who appeared nearby simply cannot be ordinary scoundrels. They were here because of some person. He realized that this was all due to the fact that one person did this in order to control the entire situation in his hands. He understood that they were trying to kill him, and if they had encountered him for real, he could have caused him very big problems. But now he would turn a blind eye to this. The guy told the man to move with him because it was time for them to move on to a new case so that they could fully deal with this situation that is now happening. Still, he managed to get to the very palace for which they had come a very long way to get to that very place. They were told that he should get off his horse and they had to go to those very lame places. He also said that there were high-ranking officials there. Therefore, it was necessary to behave competently. The guy said that he knew what to do and asked that they bring him a bottle to drink. The man said he would bring cool drinks. The guy began to look at this library, which contained a lot of books about martial arts. He realized that he was in one of the best libraries, but there was nothing lying around here. He also knew that a good library should have enough military exercises and books about martial arts. Unfortunately, there was nothing there, and he said that it would be nice to find something like what he had been looking for a very long time. He noticed that they managed to preserve one very important teaching that would help him develop his body in the future and also become much stronger. A few seconds later, someone asked him what he was doing here and what exactly interested him in this modest library. The guy started asking who he was. Maybe you said that he introduced himself a little late, and his name is Gu Wei, and he also undeservedly occupies the position of great advisor. He wanted to apologize for his son. The guy greeted him. After all, this man was very famous and also had enormous power to rule this city. The old man began to tell him that most likely he already knows everything, and therefore he is very ashamed of his son who did this. He also asked him to do a favor. The guy didn't understand what kind of request this was because he hoped that he would just come to discuss some matters with him, but he knew that he had some motives. The old man told him to be completely honest before he was questioned. At the trial, he wanted everyone to know the truth. The guy didn't understand what he was talking about, but the old man told him to do what he asked because it was a very simple idea. The guy didn't understand why he was behaving this way and why he decided to put pressure on his weakness. He said that if he is trying to gain his trust, he is very mistaken. The old man said that he should just understand him. After all, he wants to give him a chance to atone for the bad behavior his son did. The guy couldn't believe that he was telling him this sincerely and wanted to know for what motive he was saying all this. The old man said that he may not even believe him, but he is still going to resign because his time has already come. The old man said that he was very pleased to talk with such noble people, and he believes that this guy will achieve very great success if he believes in himself and follows his heart. Chan understood that he was really telling him the truth and there was absolutely nothing to hide, but still there had to be some ulterior motives. And the old man said that he was already leaving and also explained that it would be bad if people noticed that they were now communicating with him. The historian said that they would see each other later. The guy could not understand why he was getting rid of his power so easily because many influential people ended badly because they were not capable of continuing to rule it. He understood that most likely he was very honest, and also without his request he was going to tell only the truth so that his son would be punished, but most likely he was now playing by his rules. Some man came to him and asked who he really was because he wanted to know what he was doing here. Chan didn't understand what kind of fat man came to his library. After all, he wanted to understand what he forgot here. This fat man said that he had a proposal and he could already confess his crimes at the hearing. The guy didn't like the fact that he wanted to bribe him. Also, this fat man told him that if he confessed, he would receive a reward for it. Therefore, he should obey him because it would be beneficial for everyone. He said that it was 100 gold bars if he agreed. The guy understood that this fat guy was sent by someone, but he still wants to make sure that he receives punishment. And the fat guy started asking him why he wasn't answering him, and most likely he thought that he simply hadn't heard his information. The guy said that there were only 200 bars. That was very little. After all, they don't know how to do their job at all. The guy said that this fat guy was castrated just recently, that's why he feels like that. He didn't understand what he just said because he felt very uncomfortable because he started insulting him and saying that 200 bars was not enough. Chan said that he was no longer interested in what they were talking about and wanted to ask him one very important information. And the fat carcass began to tell him that he didn't even know who he was in contact with and therefore he would pay a lot for his words. Fat said that just because he has a tongue, this does not mean that he can talk as he wants, so he will now pay for the fact that he decided to communicate so against him. And so he made a powerful blow. Fat really didn't like his behavior, so he wanted to take revenge on him for behaving very indecently with him. He activated his power and said that if he continues to communicate with him like this, he will pay very heavily for this, and therefore he dealt a powerful blow. The guy felt that a very dangerous sphere was moving towards him. Therefore he had to dodge so as not to end his life. Thanks to this, he activated a technique that was able to protect him. He was able to block his own energy. This fat man's hand began to hurt very much, and he didn't understand what was happening to him. After all, this had never happened before, and no one could deal with him so easily and mercilessly. He continued to show this fat man that he had already fought against an equal in strength, and therefore, he would beg him on his knees for this one to forgive him. Thanks to his precise technique, he made this fat man begin to feel incredible pain that pierced his whole body. The guy said that if he practiced his art, he would feel how he hit special points. Fat told him that he wasn't even 20 and already knew how to use the art of energy reflection. He couldn't understand who he really was. The guy said that this old man won more battles than he ate dinners. Therefore, he should not underestimate him. After all, he is even ready to break his tongue for such words. He finally realized that this was the same legendary rejuvenation technique, and he greatly underestimated this guy. He snapped his fingers so that he would understand that he should close his mouth and not open it again in the presence of such people. Fat again felt very strong pain and understood that he could not withstand such powerful blows and asked him to spare him. The guy said that he could get all the money in the world without his help, and that didn't suit him for a long time because he wanted a lot more resources. The guy said that all the masters want only one thing, but the old man didn't understand what he was talking about because he wanted to save his soul as quickly as possible. Chan told him that he knows that there is probably some kind of secret storage room in which only the most important things are stored. The fat man said that he knew about it and he was ready to do whatever he wanted because he felt that if he didn't agree he would simply kill him. The guy said that in 3/4 of an hour he would return, and also in an hour he would die, so if he wants to live he must obtain secret training. Tolstoy understood that most likely he would not survive and wanted to find out what this gentleman was talking about because he did not want to leave this world. The guy told him to bring the sunflower teaching, thanks to which he could learn a lot of things. He wanted him to really bring it to him and he would spare him. Tolstoy began to ask if he would spare him if he could get this teaching. The guy said that he had never broken his word in his life, so he valued his reputation. Tolstoy said that he would be faithful to him. Therefore, he went to get this teaching as soon as possible because he understood that he would die very soon. The guy knew that this teaching was the only martial art that had completely flown out of his head, and perhaps this time he would have to give up carnal pleasures. The guy sat and thought what kind of glory he should still get. He wanted to get it much more than anything else. He wanted to get more information. Some people noticed that he began to behave very strangely, and the guards told Sir to move away from him because the man was not himself. The old man said that he would not reteach it because no one is forbidden to look at their own parts of the body. The old man wanted to know who he was. The guy said that he was the one they weren't looking for, and he didn't talk to his organ at all. The old man felt sick and told him to let go of his hand. This old man said that they were here to accompany him to drying, and also he had to put aside all his affairs and follow him. They needed to keep their distance. The very meeting began in which they had to understand who was to blame in that case. When the fight occurred, it was necessary to bring witnesses. The great judge said that everyone should take their places because now there will be a trial in which it will be decided what to do with these guys. The old man asked the great left advisor, who had very important information to tell before the meeting. The old man didn't want to tell anything, so he said that he would listen to everything he said today at the trial. She didn't like the fact that he was pretending again, and he didn't want everyone to know the truth. The senior judge has been in this position for a long time. He knows how people behave in order to get benefits. He understood that he had a great opportunity to take advantage of the mistake and kill him, but he did everything differently and wanted everything to happen honestly. The chief judge was confident that now everything would go like clockwork. After all, he had already organized a bribe for the sake of which his son could win the case. Finally, the very witness who had to give his testimony arrived in order for the court to admit what happened that night. The chief judge stood in front of him and said that a meeting was now beginning in which they must understand that they must maintain subordination and everyone had to communicate correctly. The judge reminded him that 3 days ago he and his comrades had a fight with a young man in the so-called Pearl Pavilion, which was very bad. He was asked if he knew who his opponent was, and the guy replied that he knew and had long been aware that he was the son of the great advisor. They shouted for silence in the hall again. They wanted to understand that this was a very important matter that needed to be discussed in full subordination. The chief judge wanted to find out how everything really happened and therefore told the guy to tell the truth, although he already knew that he had bribed him. The old man thought that victory would happen again. In fact, everything would be the other way around, and he would already do what he dreamed of and take revenge on the scoundrel. Chan began to tell him everything as it happened and said that this man burst into their hall without knocking, which was completely unacceptable because they usually spent time with the courtesan. The chief judge did not understand what he was saying because he was already sure that he had bribed him, and now he would tell him only what he wanted to hear. The guy said that they apologized to him for taking the courtesan away from him and instead offered a compromise so that everyone would benefit and a fight would not start. Unfortunately, he ignored all their proposals and knocked out their comrade. He also tried to drag the girl away, which was completely unacceptable. He left him no other choice, and they went back to the residence. Then the army came. That's exactly how it all happened. He had no other option but to fight with him. The chief judge did not understand what was happening and asked him if he was telling the truth because he wanted to hear something else because he thought he had bribed him. The guy said that he was telling the truth and nothing but the truth. He also said that his words could be confirmed by absolutely everyone who was in that place. The chief judge said that all the witnesses are his comrades. Therefore, he has no chance to tell the truth. The guy said that the brothel workers also saw everything. Therefore, he has evidence and he speaks only the truth, so he had to listen to him. The very father of this scoundrel intervened in this dialogue, and he said that the great advisor should pay attention to him. He said that a benevolent person should spread morality and be able to educate first of all. The old man confirmed his solo and said that it was true. This man's father said that he should not have been allowed in such a position and he had to cancel it. The chief judge did not like this very much, and therefore he said that such information already suited him, and he was able to listen to everything in the house across the board. This guy's father said that the civil servant wants to resign from his position to atone for the sin of raising such a worthless person, and he also said that he had already resigned. Such information was very confusing to the chief judge, and he felt that he was being fooled as if he were some kind of child. The chief judge understood that if the emperor found out the truth, then everything would be very bad, but if he did not carry out the order, then it would also be a sin. Therefore, he had to act. He understood that now his servant was completely useless. It was all because this little guy told the truth and thought that he could change everything. The chief judge said that he would regret it and the guy would beg him to leave the city without his help. After that, the guy came to the library and felt somehow very heavy. He felt that it was unpleasant for him to communicate with these idiots. What if he began to remember his years and remembered that it was the same in the imperial palace and everyone was trying to hide the truth in order to give out a lie that would be very useful? He understood that now the empire was ruled by another dynasty, but nothing had changed because such laws were always working. A few seconds later, the same fat man ran up to him because he most likely had already managed to get hold of the very teaching for which he ran to save his life. The guy asked him if he could get it, why he sent him, because such a teaching could give him a new life. Tolstoy said that she would say absolutely everything and not a single book of ours that would be somehow connected with the sun. The guy got very angry and said that if he was trying to deceive him, he would not succeed at all. The fat man said that 3 houses of the living sunflower were hidden there. Tolstoy said that he honestly searched everything carefully, avoided other people's glances at such a book, and there was no such book. The guy really understood that he was not lying to him because the rest of the books could only be obtained if you had incredible access to this. He didn't understand what kind of nonsense the fat man was saying because he felt that most likely he would have to find this book himself, which had long been lost. Tolstoy said that he promised to free him from torment if he came to him and reported absolutely all the information. The guy understood that with such efforts he would not have lied to him and understood that if he really tried to deceive him he would have died immediately. He understood that this meant that the very teaching that he was looking for was still in the very place from which he was not being taken away. He understood that he had no choice and he needed to follow to the imperial palace in which this teaching was located. But he could also already think that they could get rid of this teaching because in this case he would never be able to learn this art. Tolstoy continued to tell him that he was obliged to keep his promise because he already wanted to lose such torment. He made the guy very angry and therefore he immediately received a sidekick so that he would understand that it was better not to anger the gentleman. Chan said that he was a prophet to answer that he had no right to pretend to be cute because he looked like a stupid fat idiot. But suddenly the guy noticed that he had one of the most important teachings on another one. But unfortunately it was not what he was looking for, but it would also be useful to him. He noticed this teaching and realized that thanks to it he could exchange with someone. But the most interesting teaching is one that he forgot quite recently. Didn't care about this Tolstoy and he left him to die because for him it was just worthless meat. After this, the emperor's workers began to look for this guy. After all, they wanted to take him to the palace so that the emperor would be pleased. Suddenly they were able to find the door to understand where the fat servant was whom everyone should have already found. This fat man sat and realized that this was already the end of his life, so he would need to do something so as not to lose his life. He knew that anyone who did not follow the emperor's order was doomed to death, and all he could do was flee. Unfortunately, he did not have time to wait for the night and realized that he was about to be found because the doors opened very quickly. In front of him came another huge servant who was an imperial servant, and he wanted to bring him to his senses long ago so that this one would come to the emperor. The fat man pretended that he didn't understand anything so that they would deliberately think that he was stupid. The guy didn't want to die at the hands of the emperor yet. The older servant said that the emperor was looking for him, so he should follow him. Tolstoy tried to somehow get out because he didn't want to die. The senior servant said that if he did not listen to him immediately, then he would have to use force and then he would cry. Still, he had to use special force, which I couldn't fight off this fat one, and therefore the result was the same. Such a powerful blow was able to knock out a huge number of parts in the ceiling that needed to be restored. Meanwhile, the master was in his palace because he liked to spend his time there because it was very cozy there. The senior servant went there with this fat man to discuss the information that the emperor wanted to convey. He said that he was finally able to bring him and wanted the emperor to give him a chance to enter his chambers. He came to him alone and began to sit on his knees to bow before the emperor. This was a very important part of not getting killed. He said that it was inevitable, he had no other choice at all because this fat woman did not want to listen to his orders at all. The emperor began to ask where this thick wind was hiding. He understood that this guy was not at all simple and could also do something interesting with him. The link replied that they found this Tolstoy's palace and he was already lying there and did not understand what to do next because it was closed. The emperor said that he was just a stupid, shameless person who had no right to do this. This will be the same emperor whom everyone feared. The emperor told him to go away already and he was ready to deal with him. Lugansk said that if he wants he can bring him to his senses. The emperor said that there was no need to do this at all and he could figure it out himself. He began to bow to him and was about to leave. The doors closed and the senior servant left his office in which the emperor was resting after a hard day when he simply did nothing. The emperor went down to him to look him in the eyes because he understood that this guy was completely pretending and was not frozen. The emperor told him to stop pretending because he already sees everything, so he should open his little eyes and discuss the guy with him. Fat said that he expected me to expect that the emperor would be able to open his little loophole. The fat man stood up and said that the gentleman was very insightful and he was even lucky that such an intelligent person lived on the same earth with him. The emperor said that he was just a fat weasel who was trying to suck up to him, but the emperor knew all his plans and he himself ruined his plan. The fat man tried to tell him the whole truth and said that this guy suddenly hit him on special points. Still, the fat one told him the whole truth and the emperor realized that they had one very important competitor who needed to be finished off. The emperor could not believe that this city had not changed at all, and it seems that Tolstoy had a very difficult time. Therefore, he took him by the head, so that he would no longer suffer, and killed him because the fat man already knew too much information. That is why he twisted his neck and killed him in one movement so that he would not suffer because other hard labor would be much more painful. Still, this case was closed, and it was already necessary to go in search of this guy because he would definitely like to see him. The emperor felt that something had to be done to make this guy appear right in front of him because he knew that he was much smarter than the rest. He understood that this art had not yet been sought by anyone in the last 14 years. Most likely he already realized who this guy really is. The emperor told his subordinates that he had to meet with him and they needed to bring this guy here. Meanwhile, the guy became very angry with them because he understood that they were completely contradicting themselves, but this was the order of the emperor, so they could not do anything. The guy couldn't believe that they were resuming the hearings again, and most likely it was the fat one. He told him the truth, and now he faces a very great danger. The guy came to his palace and understood that he needed to first assess the situation. The servants said that the one they were looking for was already there. The guy could not believe that in front of him was the same stupid emperor about whom there were a lot of rumors, and he had seen him in his previous life. This was the same emperor who had an incredible long beard and also some strange mustache, and in a past life he was one of his main obstacles. The guy understood that if he decided to intervene in this event personally, then the event was very important. He also knew that if there was a fight, he should either fight back or run away. First, he will pretend that he doesn't understand anything at all in order to understand how much information this emperor knows. The guy introduced himself. The emperor said that he already had a lot of information about the fact that one of his subordinates disturbed him. He said that it was not the subordinate himself who was to blame, but also the emperor himself. The emperor's left hand came out and said that if his son's guilt is proven, then he wants to resign and leave this place, but the emperor said that's enough. The emperor said that everything should be according to the law, and he wanted him to simply pay the fine and also do special things for his country. He said that he should not resign now because they simply do not allow him, and the right advisor also confirmed this. The emperor said that his decree will be that he rejects the resignation, and he will continue to work in the name of the nation. Also, the emperor was very smart, so he wanted to lure the guy and took out from his hand the very book in which he had the very teaching that he was looking for. The emperor said that the heavenly demon himself owned this teaching and everyone wanted to receive it, so he gives him this teaching due to the fact that the guy did a lot for them. He could not understand why he had this teaching and why he decided to give him such an important thing for nothing. The guy felt that there would be some kind of trap here, so he could not accept this teaching because knowledge was much more expensive and he could not just give it away. The emperor looked at him with penetrating eyes and asked the guy why he didn't answer him, as if he had taken water into his mouth. The guy understood that if he were some kind of martial master he would calmly take it, but he cannot believe that he is really ready to give such an important thing as compensation. The guy tried to figure out what this wise old man who had already ruled this city for decades of his very smart life was up to. The guy wanted to understand what this emperor was up to because he made some incredible logic that only he himself could understand. Because of this, the emperor's left hand did not understand why he was behaving this way and told him to immediately accept the gift as respect from the emperor. The guy didn't understand why they so strongly believed that this emperor was so cool. If he were in his own body, he would have kicked his ass a long time ago. The guy understood that this time he would forgive them all, and he also said that he would never forget what they did for him, and he was immensely grateful to him. The emperor said that during the spring he and she believed that his art was originally created to end the war. However, the soldiers do not pay any attention to the chaos that is going on in the world. They are divided into right and wrong, fighting day and night. He tried to make him feel sorry for him. The guy said that he would not answer at all. He knew that, in fact, people did not create martial arts in order to later use them for bad purposes. The emperor said that martial arts depend only on who uses them and how the essence itself is unchanged. Therefore, it was necessary to understand some kind of responsibility you take on when you use it. The emperor told him to imprint the meaning of this time deeply into himself and continue to move on. The emperor left the throne because he was able to give him such an important teaching so that he would reflect on why he did this. His art can become his whole life, or on the contrary, methods of murder, depending on how exactly to use them. He understood that this was really so. The guy noticed that the emperor is a fairly wise man and he doesn't throw words into the wind as others do. He said that someday he would kill him because he used this martial art. The father of that impudent man said that he had a hard time today, so he invited him to stay the night and at the same time relieve the accumulated fatigue. The guy said that he would like me to bother him, so he himself will figure out what and how to do. The old man said that this is his last request and he asks him to fulfill it because he would like him to stay with him. The guy felt that most likely this old man was speaking very sincerely and he was causing him indignation, so he would stay with him for a while. The guy finally had his fill and understood that life is truly wonderful when you were able to learn a lot over such many years. He was offered to eat something else, but the guy said that he wouldn't mind, but he had enough because overeating is also harmful. The old man thought that the guy was really very small, but he was able to eat a huge amount of food. The man said that he had never seen anyone eat everything with such appetite, and he was pleased. The guy understood that most likely they wanted something from him, and so he told them to get straight to the point because he was sure that they invited him for a reason. The old man understood that this guy could not be fooled so easily, so he told him to go with him to the office, and there they could discuss all their affairs. The guy felt that most likely there would now be very bad consequences, and therefore he had to not agree to these tricks. He came to his office, and there was a very strong gust of wind that the guy could barely control due to the fact that he did not expect such an ambush. But in fact he did it, and the old man did not understand what he decided to do here because the guy felt that something was wrong here. As expected, he managed to shield himself from the arrows that were flying incredibly fast, and he managed to lift a huge board with his strength to escape. The man shouted that they were attacked and they needed to run away from here immediately so that everyone would be okay. The young master immediately ran out of there because he felt that most likely now he would have to fight. The guy told him not to leave one step from the advisor. The guy was really very worried about him, so he wanted to deal with these people himself. He felt that these guys were much stronger than the three that attacked in the morning, so he would catch everyone to kick their ass. He noticed that they were moving much faster than he could only imagine. Therefore, everything had to be distributed correctly so that they would not fight back. He noticed that there were quite a few of them. Therefore, he should deal with everyone using at least one weapon. He noticed that they were able to surround them, and he had no other option when to surrender because it seemed as if there was no chance. The guy said that if they decided to replace him, then they were very mistaken because he was not going to give up. She said that she would spare them if they told who called them here. The guy wanted to find out who was setting up all these ambushes. Still, they did not listen to him and therefore went on the attack to kill this guy who was all alone, and there were a huge number of them. But it was all useless because he calmly dodged their blows and they acted somehow very stupidly because they had to catch him on counterattacks. The guy calmly dealt with these wars, which could not even be considered warriors because he killed them with just one movement of his fist. He also sprayed like some kind of butterfly and gave powerful blows with his legs. The guy calmly dealt with them because for him it was pure babble. He did not believe that they were so weak and calmly finished off everyone who tried to attack him because it was useless because he was a good warrior. That is why he even managed to catch an arrow that was flying at incredible speed. He noticed that it was the judge's pen, and he understood that behind all this there was not a very good person. Therefore, it was necessary to deal with him as soon as possible. Chan realized that he needed to move to the east of the sea where these wars were located who again wanted to kill him. He understood that they most likely therefore he knows that they are really good warriors but not so good as to kill him. They shouted that he was really Gagarin who was able to declassify them, but this does not give them anything other than to kill them. The guy said that if they had such an answer then he would deal with them himself and they would still regret what they said. He also added to them that this battle would be their last and each of them would die because they were unworthy to exist. The man calmly fought off those people who had already arrived at the palace. He thought that nothing would work out for him, the master was protected. In another I realized that most likely it was just a diversionary maneuver, most likely they only needed the great advisor himself. He understood that only 2 fighters were left alive. The only thing they could do was take the gentleman away from here. In this case, he understood that he needed to risk his life but by time so that he could escape. He shouted for them to immediately see the gentleman through the back door because he would not be able to control the situation for long. Everyone like him didn't say hello to him very much because the ball flew right next to his head and by some miracle he survived. But it was not for long because these warriors could really give him good damage. The gentleman could not believe that his best partner was now dying to save his life. Still, he was killed and he understood that he was glad to live for Mr. But it seems that this is the end that did not take long to wait. He shouted to the gentleman to be much more attentive than before because his life was worth much more. But the guy managed to run in just in time and save his life because he understood that he had to. Warriors and why he appeared so unexpectedly. Moreover, he was able to kill 2 of the best masters. The guy started asking them how they got so much courage to do such bad things. He told the soldiers to immediately take an advisor with them and move away because he would not control his forces. It was the leader of the assassins who understood that he was to keep at a distance a strong ring that the distracting groups could feel, but the little one was much smarter. The soldiers immediately hid the gentleman inside because it was impossible for him to get hurt. The guy was ready to do anything to save a life. The killer also understood that it was necessary to deal with this guy and then touch the advisor himself. He ordered his soldiers to go at him. The guy felt that he no longer controlled his powers, so he could not vouch for what he would do with this city. He was able to activate some incredible power and was able to cut through 3 warriors at once with some shots. And the head indicated that they should not come too close to him, just attack him from a distance because this guy is very strong. Chan didn't care about them and he calmly fought off these attacks because he felt that he could do it. These small knives could not fly further than a meter because he was able to repel them with his wind power. The guy got really angry and so he activated the martial art enhancement. He wanted to show them that they were going to die now. Thanks to his superpower, he was able to make an incredible move thanks to which he was able to repel all the attacks that they had recently organized against him. Using this technique, he managed to send the same Americans to their breasts. And no one could use this technique against them for many years. The warriors were also difficult, so they also showed him that now he would beg them for mercy. Because they also knew energy. He activated a superpower that sounded very strange and was called Benaya Hum. With this ability, he was able to activate his hands in some kind of blade. He was able to push one of these fighters. After all, they thought that they could deal with him so easily. It was somehow very strange, and it was even scary to be in the same place with him. He was completely bursting with energy. He activated a triple fire attack and everyone was scared to be in the same room with him because he could just kill. Actually, he did this in order to protect himself from this whole problem. The guy tried to attack them, but he couldn't. This even intrigued him very much, and he expected something greater. He decided to play with fire. Now he knows who he really is, and the guy will be able to control all the attacks that he will use on him. That is why he wanted to do some incredible dance with the help of which this spiral could stop. The guy still managed to fly out at him after such a spectacular show. He came much closer to him and wanted to fight him back. It was some very strange technique called a combo attack, and thanks to it, he was able to send several blows instantly. All these blows came with the same force, and it was even scary to be there, let alone fight. His opponent understood that he hit it very hard. After all, now he will be able to show him that he knows much more techniques and will be able to prove it. Thanks to all these blows, he made holes in the heads of his opponents, and they had no control over what was happening to their bodies. Thanks to this, he activated the development wave in order to somehow fight back, because he understood that with the help of such power he would really die. The head of this gang understood that now he would have to fight one-on-one against this bastard, because he was able to kill even the strongest warriors. The guy felt some strange pain. It wasn't pain. After all, the guy just laughed at them and felt like he had already won. He didn't understand what happened to this company. After all, before they were much stronger, and now they found themselves in such a strange state. The head didn't understand how he knew about their past organizations, and it was completely unclear what kind of protection he was using, but they couldn't just leave it like that. He understood that it was time to do something, and he ordered his soldiers to go on the attack because the guy was already very exhausted. He ordered them to finish him off. The guy was attacked by another huge number of warriors who were ready to kick his ass. But he didn't care because he could control everything with his own hands. The guy calmly killed them with the help of his techniques, which broke their body a few seconds after touching. All the opponents fell as if they were punching bags that could easily be defeated. But suddenly someone managed to hurt the guy, and he really felt that now he had finally found an equal opponent. The guy fell into the ground and realized that now he would have to fight with all his strength and not as he was just playing with them. The guy couldn't believe that even such a weak technique as a breaking wave could devastate this body so much. He couldn't believe that she really was so weak. The guy didn't know that if he uses other combat weapons, yes, and they are unlikely to change the situation much, but at least he can prevent further deterioration of the condition. What if the guy realized that he could use a technique that he accidentally learned during training, and thanks to it he could really kill them? The guy decided to try this technique, although he hadn't even given it a name yet. He started activating the plum petals to punish them. The guy really turned out to be somehow strange because an incredible charge was coming from him that was tearing everything around. He realized that this technique was in no way inferior in power to the breaking wave, and it even dealt with them better. The head didn't understand where this guy even came from because he was able to tear apart some of the best killers that ever existed. This man fled and felt that at the moment this organization was divided into two sub-organizations that were fighting each other. He understood that if he lost to this guy there would be problems with his faction, so he couldn't allow that to happen. He noticed how this guy was moving after him, and now he has no choice but to fight him and go into battle with him one-on-one. He managed to block the blow of this young guy, although he understood that if he was already able to deliver such a strong blow, it was unlikely that he would give up. He didn't understand who he was and why he had incredible powers. Because there had never been anyone like him in this city before. Chun didn't care who he was. He said that his customer should have told him completely about him. But still the guy said that even if he is one of the most important, he will still die. He told him to fight him with all his might because he would regret it if he stopped fighting him correctly. This made the head very angry, and he said that now he will fight with him because he is not worthy to be on the same level with him. He said that now this guy will understand the real power of his martial art, which he has been honing for years. He went through everything with the help of the dragon's wrath because this technique had incredible power. But the guy did not retreat and was ready to block. He knew that the best defense is an attack, so he also activated his strength, which he had recently been able to learn in training. That is why they started fighting, and the guy was able to break his body into two parts with one blow. It looked incredibly beautiful. The man didn't understand how this could even happen because this guy was no more than 20 years old, and he was able to deal with such warriors so boldly. He couldn't understand where he was able to learn this because no one knew such a technique. The guy was very pleased that he was able to defeat him. The dead man was already saying to himself that he was just a damned monster that no one would stop unless he himself died. Meanwhile, a young gentleman came to them who wanted to see the great advisor with whom to at least discuss something. The guy came to him and brought the head of one person in a bag that was already completely covered in blood. The great advisor began to ask him what it was and why he brought it to him. After all, he wanted to know what all this was about. Chan said that this is the head of the leader of the killers and they are from Korea. He also answered that they were very famous people and he knew about them. He told him to try to find out who was behind all this, and it was time for him to move on because he did not want to stay in the capital for so long. The old man couldn't understand where he was going in such a hurry because he was just after the battle and he needed to change clothes. It looked very suspicious that he was trying to leave him again. The Grand Counselor told his assistants to bring new clothes to the master so that he could feel comfortable. The guy noticed that this man remained alive because he thought that he had already died because he was very seriously wounded with a sword. The man replied that fortunately all his internal organs were not affected, and therefore there was no need to worry. The man said that he would leave them alone because he did not want to continue to be in the presence of this impudent boy. The great advisor began to ask him what happened to him and why he was acting so strange because the guy did not have a smile. The guy replied that during the battle he damaged the solar teaching and now it is completely lost forever. The great advisor understood that now you couldn't read it completely, and even the thing that was handed over by the emperor himself was damaged and could cause them problems. Although the grand counselor said that if his father were alive, he would be glad that this book was already damaged. The guy didn't understand what he was talking about and why he was behaving so strangely because he communicates in codes. The great advisor already knew a lot, and he said that this sunflower teaching belonged to the heavenly demon, and in addition it was used in the battle when the hero lost to the invincible in the east. The guy could not stand such words and became very angry, and he also jumped up from his feet and flew at this old man. He got very angry and told the old man to keep quiet. The great advisor did not understand what was happening to him. The guy asked what he just told him because he wanted to know the whole truth. The great advisor told him a very important secret. The heavenly demon who was in the guy's body asked the old man how he knew what happened that day. He didn't know that 14 years ago on the day when the heavenly demon did the soul transfer, only these two were left alive. He couldn't stay alive and doesn't know what happened. Most likely this old man even knows that he is actually a heavenly demon and an unusual guy who simply grew up from some kind of hero. In this case, he will have to kill him because he simply will have no other choice. The guy asked why he called him, and he wanted to know absolutely everything. The old man told him that he had understood everything wrong and felt that he could finish him off in a second. He wanted you to give him a chance to explain everything. The guy let him go and the old man fell to the ground. He told him to tell him everything he knew. The old man said that he was even worse than his father, about whom he already knew a lot. The guy sat down opposite him and didn't know that he even had an idea about his father. And the old man said that his father was a very dangerous and also a skillful guy. At first he wanted to apologize to him for saying that. The old man said that in fact he knows who he is, but he has not shown who he is all this time. He did this only in order not to show this to the emperor because the emperor would at least do everything to ensure that he was dead. The old man explained that the emperor wanted to get rid of all the descendants of this family, but he still does not know about him. The guy answered him that even stray dogs know that he is the son of a great hero, but some emperor doesn't know. The old man explained to him that if a subordinate is responsible for transmitting information, then he goes against the government. The emperor surprisingly easily becomes powerless. The guy understood that this was all about the story with this teacher who really wanted to resign, but he didn't allow him. The emperor saw this as a threat to the throne and ordered to get rid of his mother a long time ago when she was pregnant. He lied to the emperor about the murder and began to monitor the safety of the mother and child. He wanted to do everything so that he would be born in a good place. The guy stood up and said that if he was really telling the truth, then he should apologize for what he did to him. The guy asked him to forgive him for his rudeness because the things he did were very bad. The old man said that she would at least give up at least half of her wealth so that this guy could live in good places. He said that he did not perceive this as an insult at all. Chan began to ask him what about the sunflower teaching because he wanted to save it after it was very damaged. The guy began to ask if there was such a way to save this teaching, and the old man began to look for a book thanks to which he could solve this. Finally, he was able to find a way into the secret storage room where he kept a lot of books that he was hiding about. He said that if there are all the books that the emperor does not like. He didn't like it when all sorts of different arts were kept from him. The guy asked him why keep these books, and the advisor replied that if the emperor considers himself the smartest, then he is mistaken because ancient books will be useful for generations. That is why he risks his reputation and keeps all these books from the emperor. He said that this is his secret library about which his mother knows. Who knows he doesn't let strangers in here. He went up to one stand and began to look where this book he was talking about was located. Still he was able to find, and this was the same sunflower teaching that he had been looking for very long days and was also losing his reputation. He could not believe that the old man gave him another version of this teaching because he thought that there was only one copy. The old man said that in fact there was only one copy, but it was a copy. The guy didn't understand where he got this copy from because he's not a martial artist. The old man never spoke. And then the same man who had served this man for many years appeared behind him. The old man got very angry and asked who gave him permission to enter here. Only the most important people could enter here. The man began to ask him for forgiveness because he did not want to do this. He told him that his son had arrived. so he had no choice. The old man could not believe that his son had lost his temper and come here even though he told him to stay at home. The old man came out to him and said that he had told him not to go out without his permission. The son said that he knew that he was attacked last night. The old man said that the young master who was standing behind him had already completely figured it out, and therefore he ordered him to immediately return to the clan. Seeing this guy made him even angrier. He didn't want to see him after he kicked his ass. The guy realized that the same scum from that legendary clan about which there were so many legends had arrived here. He understood that if the art of soul transfer had worked as it should, they would immediately be gone. He said that his work was finished, so he needs to go already. The guy thanked the gentleman for his hospitality and said that he already needed to leave. His son told him not to let this little bastard go. He told him that he was probably connected with these killers. The young master's assistant told him to stop yelling. The father said that the young master saved his life, and if it weren't for him, he would have been lying dead in a coffin a long time ago. Then, out of nowhere, another very important person came out and said that you shouldn't scold so much. It was the same head of this clan, and he said that they had not seen the great advisor for a very long time. Chan began to examine this man and realized that if we take into account his similarity to the previous chapter, then this is his son. The old man began to ask what brought him here because he wanted to know why they arrived here without his knowledge. The man said that since their families agreed to the union, now they are like one big family that must protect each other. He also said that his son-in-law was being scolded here. Therefore, it was necessary for his father to forgive him again because he would not do such nonsense again. The old man said that this was very absurd because only 3 days had passed. He also said that if they came here just for this, they should return back to the clan. The man said that he treats some strange guy much better than his own son. The old man said that everything was his son's fault in this situation. This person who stands behind him is only a victim. Despite all the events, he even helped him escape. And the man realized that this guy turned out to be the son of a great hero, and in fact they didn't lie to him at all. The man began to tell him to think very correctly because most likely he had not yet fully understood the whole truth. The guy began to think about what to answer them because I understand that if he absorbs it like a sponge, the situation will be worse. The guy still restrained his emotions and said that first of all he had to apologize to him for greeting them. He bowed to him and said that he should at least introduce himself to him, and so he leaned down and showed his loyalty. The son of the great advisor did not understand why he just started bowing to him and also began to behave very strangely. Even a person who worked for many years with a great advisor did not understand what was happening because this guy was very confident in himself and never allowed himself to be humiliated. The guy came down to him and said that they had a little misunderstanding, so they should forget about it and move on. The guy said that they should stay on good terms and he doesn't want them to keep fighting. He used a very clever trick to manipulate this man, and through this he made him rejoice as if he had won. The man said that he was much smarter than he seemed and said that everything was fine with him now. So he accepts his apology. The guys began to apologize, but still his infected son said that he would not calm down until he received punishment. After that, they moved forward because they had to arrive back. After all, they felt that the young master wanted to go home. The man began to ask him why he behaved so strangely in front of the feet of the gentleman head of the clan. Paulin said that he just said hello to him, and this is the usual greeting that he always did before communicating with some respected people. The man was very angry that he began to behave so strangely with this man and behaved with him like an ordinary servant. He gave him a booger and also felt that someone was attacking them again. This means he will have to fight. The guy said that if he is not mistaken, then this time there will be stronger guys and he will have to fight. The guy understood that it would not be easy for him, but he understands that this is all because of the son of the great advisor who 100% sent other people. He noticed that some dangerous people were running over there again, so they should run away from here before it's too late. The guy said that this time they would have to split up. And he said that he was saving his own skin and let him leave because it would be much safer for him. He told him to carry out his order, and at the same moment the guy ran to the attack. He knew that this way he could calmly deal with them. After all, he had already learned many techniques. His opponent was also difficult. Therefore, it was necessary not to underestimate him because the main task when you fight is to correctly assess the situation. The man felt that he would have a hard time, so he moved as quickly as possible on these horses to escape. The guy meanwhile began to fight against him because he had a feeling that everything would not end here with an ordinary battle. He had no choice but to fight against these bandits who attacked him again, so he had to protect himself. There were very powerful explosions there. so he really had big problems. The same man who fell along with the carriage felt very strong pain when he landed on the ground. He felt that the injury from the last fall still bothers him very much, and he feels that he has become much worse. And suddenly he noticed that some strange man appeared in front of him and wished him death. He saw his face with his own eyes and was very worried because he did not want to believe that it was true. He had already seen him swinging his very long sword to take his life. But fortunately he managed to protect this powerful blow because he took out a blade with him that was able to repel this force. The man said that these were murderers who were unworthy to fight against him because they were from a probable clan that had recently come to him. He understood that there were only 4 of them, and if he included those who attacked the cart he would have to work very hard. He understood that if this was already the end, then he needed to bring at least one person together to take him hostage and then show them that they should leave him alone. The guy shouted that he would not pay for this cart. After all, they had been moving for a very long time to their place and they just decided to take a break. The guy shouted that if they did not obey them, then he would have to kill everyone and cut his body in half. They had no other option but to execute these 2. After all, they posed a very great danger to the future of the clan. The guy managed to deal with them and began to ask the man if everything was okay with him because he wanted to understand whether he could count on him. Maybe he said that everything was fine with him. And the guy told him not to let them get very close to him because then they would definitely lose. The guy understood that they were from the clan that had come to them quite recently, and they didn't have to pretend because he already understood everything. The guy said that they were giving themselves away and didn't have to hide it because the man who attacked the carriage was very worried because he was afraid that he would realize that he was from the clan. These people began to get very nervous and realized that now they had really been declassified. The guy wanted to make them emotional and asked why they continued to remain silent. After all, they were disgracing their clan. They felt that now they had no choice because they knew all the information. So they had to kill this guy. He understood that the carriage was broken and there would be a long journey ahead. Therefore, they would pay very heavily for this because it would be inconvenient for him to travel without the carriage. Still, they began to activate their superpowers, which they were able to display quite recently thanks to the fact that they received energy here. They said that this is the sword of the Azure Cloud and now it will kill this guy just forever. Chan knew that he would still have to answer for the fact that he said that he could kill them. Therefore, he activated his technique. It was called the Star Stream, and thanks to it, he was able to repel this blow, which seemed very dangerous for him. Due to the fact that the blow was much stronger, his opponent began to cough up blood and could not withstand such a confrontation. The rest of the people began to look at what was happening to their master, who had suffered very badly. The man who was in that gang understood that the guy who was afraid to even speak was able to kill 3 at once. Chan replied that he only had 1 left in sight, so he has little time and he wants to deal with it as quickly as possible. He understood that he could not defeat him and said that he should at least apologize for the rudeness of his brothers, and he understood that he would not be able to defeat him at all. Therefore, it was necessary to come to a truce. The guy understood that there was some kind of catch here and he had to not trust. Everyone knew that cheese was only in a mousetrap. The guy said that this was already very good, and he also said that you can see your intentions in your eyes. He began to apologize to him. It was obvious that he would still give him the opportunity to stay alive. The guy didn't understand what he was talking about, but he replied that his fears were exaggerated. He said that now that he had seen everything with his own eyes, he realized that he was not a stupid person at all. He realized that this was the very technique of delusion that he had studied in his youth. The guy realized that he had finally fallen for this technique and now it would be much easier to kill him. He felt that he could not move due to the fact that he was enchanted, and thanks to the fact that he used this technique, he took out his dagger to kill him. It was too late and his guy made a brilliant move that could break his head into small pieces. He did not understand how the art did not work because he thought that this was the most powerful technique that he could only develop. The guy told him to now watch how real art works, and he looked incredibly beautiful like a girl. He couldn't move and said that it was simply amazing, and he thought that the guy was always so incredible now. The opponent said that he could charm anyone, but it was too late because he struck him directly in the head. He flew far and for a long time and also shouted that he did not mind dying. This spell was too strong, so it should be banned. After some time, the guy managed to return to the very place where all his brothers lived. The guy returned but didn't understand why no one met him. After all, before everyone loved him and considered him one of the best. The old man noticed that all his clothes were torn, and he wanted to ask what happened, because he did not understand what was wrong. The guy replied that some people were acting against the left-wing advisor and he was drawn into their cause but not of his own free will. The old man began to ask him who was behind this, and the guy said that he had never been able to find out. The old man replied that this is not a trifle at all, he must understand how very dangerous it is. The guy replied that he did not want to disturb the gentleman and they were terribly boring. He was able to calmly deal with them without disturbing anyone. The old man wanted to know something about the left advisor and asked if he had said any valuable information. The guy didn't understand why as soon as he returned such a tough interrogation began, and he wanted to ask why everything was like this. The old man told him to forget about all this and go to rest, and the guy in front of him took his leave and said that he would go because he was very tired after all these days. The old man tried to think what the problem was because he didn't hear anything that happened while he was away. The teacher wanted to find out what this cunning old man said. He promised to take the secret with him to the grave. He was much smarter than they imagined. The great shedding ended under the power of the heavenly demon himself. Everyone thought that there were only two left, but then these two intervened. He was able to commit a betrayal that he could not have expected at all. They swore to remain silent so that no one would know about it. The old man realized that most likely he had changed his mind, but perhaps the emperor was also behind this. Therefore, he needed to know everything. The old man said that it was too early to draw conclusions and would have to wait a little longer. But perhaps he really just harbored a grudge against him. Still, the old man was confident that whoever stood in his way would be able to deal with this. He knew that he could do it. This helped them maintain confidence in their abilities. The guy went to say goodbye to this man whose life he had already saved for the first time and said that he would like to say hello to the gentleman. The man couldn't believe that he didn't tell him the whole truth because most likely he just didn't want to declare war on the family of this clan. The guy replied that he had his own reasons for this. The man said that anyone who pointed a knife at him is his enemy. They said goodbye and wished each other good luck because they definitely won't forget such things for the rest of their lives. The guy was finally able to deal with these difficult problems that arose due to the fact that that sun could not calm down. Now he wants to look into the teaching. The guy sat down in the forest to understand what it really was because then he didn't even look at it. He began to consider this teaching because he wanted to understand what its essence was.